Good evening from Starbase, Texas. It has been 220 days since the final flight of Starship version 2, and through trials, tribulations, and SpaceX's trademark excitement, we are once again back on the pad, a new redesigned pad and a new redesigned version of Starship that is targeting liftoff of Starship's 12th flight test in just under 2 hours at 5:30 p.m. Central Time. My name is Caden. I'm your host here for tonight's live stream with Avid Space, and I am joined by the one and only Zach of CSI Starbase.
Hello, everybody. Good to be here with y'all. Good morning or afternoon or evening, whichever one of y'all are currently celebrating. Definitely happy to be here with y'all today. Really excited for today's launch. I think up until this, probably yesterday, I was kind of hoping for a delay, but I'm really excited now. Looks like the skies are starting to clear up as well too. So what was a few minutes ago looking not the greatest as far as visuals go, is starting to improve. So I'm getting really excited.
Excitement is guaranteed, and I'm not sure if he's here now, but he will be popping in at some point. The king of the channel, Lab himself. I don't know if he's here right now. There he is.
I am here. We are broadcasting live from the Rocket Ranch outpost out here at Starbase, and so far it's starting to clear up for us. We're getting a little bit of break in the sky, and we're hoping for a go for launch from SpaceX. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And Caden, thanks for hosting today. Great to hear you again.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And yeah, we are currently at 55% go as far as weather is concerned. So that is the major item that we'll be watching throughout this countdown. But at this time, SpaceX seemed to still be go for an on-time liftoff at 5:30. So we're here. We're keeping our fingers crossed.
Yes, sir. I think the weather's going to be fine. The sun's starting to come out, starting to get hot. They've launched in worse conditions out here. So as long as everything goes well during fueling, I think we're going to see this thing light up.
Full send. We like to see it. But as for what we're going to see launch today, in case you've been living under a rock and are not familiar, today we will hopefully see the first flight of version 3 of the Starship vehicle. This is the generation of Starship that SpaceX are touting as the vehicle that will bring Starship's core capabilities, that is full and rapid reuse, ability to carry cargo and crew to the moon and Mars, and the ability to carry massive amounts of cargo via orbital refueling to Earth orbit. All of those capabilities are coming online with this version of the vehicle. There is a whole swath of new upgrades and redesigns applied to both stages, Super Heavy and Starship, as well as the launch pad, completely redesigned from the ground up. We're going to be talking a bit about all of those exact upgrades as the stream goes on. But first, just want to let you guys know that if you have any exact questions that you'd like to ask us, you can do so pinging @question followed by the question in your chat. We can pull it up on screen and get it answered for y'all. And of course, we appreciate any amount of support that you give. Just being here is fantastic. If you want to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and for extended support, if you feel that way, feel free to leave a super chat or join the channel as a member. We appreciate all of that extended support. And we actually, if I can pull it up here, we just now got a $20 super chat from 55 Chevy guy Steve, saying thanks for the great coverage of Starbase. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your extended support.
Definitely. Thanks, 55 Chevy guy. You know, that's going to go to help replace some of those windows on Rover 3 that got blasted out the other day.
Oh yeah, we've as I mentioned earlier, we've seen much of SpaceX's trademark excitement in the past few months in the preparation for this flight, and one of those more recent moments was the first 33 engine static fire of booster 19, the super heavy booster you see on this flight. 33 engines started up simultaneously, the most thrust of any rocket ever in history, and it did a number on one of our cameras.
Yeah, not only did it damage the camera, but it blasted out all 8 windows. And as some of y'all saw on X and some of the other videos that we posted, It looked like somebody took some rat shot and buckshot to the side of the vehicle and just completely annihilated it. But I always welcome the war wounds of Starbase.
Do you actually?
I cry a little bit, but it was still pretty cool.
I think his wallet cries a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's why as soon as I think it was yesterday when I messaged you, I was like, "Hey, you're gonna move away from that location because you probably should."
I really thought about moving it down like 100 yards and testing it out, but I went I went ahead and moved anyway. Got out of the way just in case. Not ready to drop another fat nug on all those windows.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's going to be a little bit different this time is just the clarity of view, I guess, that you have from so many different angles because of just the location where the new pad is, and specifically, where that Rover 3 was parked at. I think is kind of going to be the when the vehicle pitches over during the pitch over maneuver. I think it's going to be kind of directing all of those sound waves directly towards that location for the most part. So yeah, I mean, what you had during the static fire test with the water suppression system kind of helping to somewhat dampen that noise. I can't even imagine what it would have sounded like without that. But once the vehicle clears the pad, then we'll actually find out how much louder it is this time around.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of it is attributed to the new Raptor 3 engines, but also with the new design of the flame trench. On pad 1, we had the blast to go out in a 360 radius. Now it's being funneled in two shots from the north and the south, and it just kind of compresses and condenses all that noise and all that pressure, and it is enormous.
Yeah, there was another very big difference, which we'll probably cover multiple times throughout the day. But one of the other big differences was that with Pad One, they were actively trying to protect the pad. So they were basically, sorry, protect the pad using the vehicle. So um, by waiting until they cleared the tower to throttle up, that was their way of not putting you know, two times the amount of thermal stress on the actual deluge plate. So they basically waited until they cleared the tower and the plume was not directly coupled with the surface of the launch deck before they throttled up. But now, with the way that the new flame deflector system is designed and the water cooled launch deck, now they're no longer worried about protecting the pad. Uh, by reducing the performance of the vehicle. So that is one of the big things that we'll see today is that it will probably jump off the pad in a way that we've been wishing was going to happen since day one. Probably, I don't know if a better comparison would be SLS or uh, which other one is it? Atlas 5 was the one that jumped off super fast.
Yeah,
Uh,
Atlas 5 gets out of town real quick.
Yeah, so I think it'll be a lot closer to that, and that's purely based on a little bit because of engine performance. So I mean, there's what a 10% increase in engine performance right now, but the bigger thing is that the pad is protecting itself instead of the vehicle protecting the pad. So we'll see it jump off really fast, and therefore it's going to also be a lot louder.
Definitely excited for that. We got another super chat coming in, $20 from Yazada 3843. Appreciate that support.
Also, I see Mouser 58907 is boasting his 76 months here with Lab Padre Live. He's one of our great contributors since the very beginning. Thank you, Mouser, for everything you do for us.
76 months. Wow.
We also have
So
a
I
few
will
others. I'm sorry. Who was it? Matt WHUFC has just joined Lab Padre Gold. Rob Zulman joined Lab Padre Elite, and Jeff Dub 365 upgraded his membership to Lab Padre Live. Thank you all for all your support, guys.
As always, we appreciate all of that. I'll run through briefly what we're going to see today, though, the exact flight profile. So at 5:30 p.m. Central, that is when we are currently targeting liftoff of Starship's 12th flight test. About 45 minutes before liftoff is when SpaceX will go live. So when they come up, of course, we will switch over to their stream and pipe in their audio to see what new information they have for us. And hopefully, and Zach mentioned this before the stream started, hopefully it'll be a little bit more than they've given us in the past because they're starting 15 minutes earlier than usual this time around. But primary goal of Starship Flight 12, of course, as is the case with every Starship flight, is it's a test flight, is to verify new upgrades to the Starship vehicle. And of course, this is a pretty big one. It's an entire new iteration of both stages of the launch pad, thousands upon thousands of upgrades being put into every single system on these vehicles. And Flight 12's primary goal is to demonstrate each of these new pieces in a flight environment for the very first time. So the booster's primary test objective, the Super Heavy booster, Booster 19, will be to, of course, execute a successful launch, ascent, stage separation, boost back burn, and landing burn. Not back at the launch site. It's going to be splashing down in the Gulf. But we are going to hopefully see 33 Raptor 3 engines powering this vehicle all the way up through ascent and then through boost back and landing burn as well. The Starship upper stage, Ship 39, is going to have multiple objectives, both in space and during reentry. And among those is a deployment of 20 Starlink simulator satellites, which are similar in size to SpaceX's next gen Starlink V3 satellites. And two of those satellites will actually have imagery or the capability to transmit imagery of Starship down to the ground. So hopefully we will be seeing the first views, external views of Starship in orbit on this flight. Several tiles on Starship have also been painted white. You can actually see that from this view right here. Those are not missing tiles. They are there. They are just painted white to simulate missing tiles and serve as imaging targets when Ship 39 splashes down in the Indian Ocean. And then all of the deployed payloads, of course, will be on the same suborbital trajectory as Ship 39, so they will burn up in the atmosphere. We are not going to a stable orbit today, so nothing's going to be left in orbit as space junk. And as has been done on several flight tests recently, SpaceX are also planning on relighting a single Raptor 3 engine while in space. And that's pretty important because it will be the first relight test of Raptor 3. There is one heat shield tile missing on Ship 39 as well. It's been intentionally removed to measure aerodynamic load differences on adjacent tiles, so tiles that are around a missing piece on the ship. And then the last thing, this is another thing that SpaceX have done on a previous flight test. They are going to intentionally stress the structural limits of the Starship vehicle's rear flaps through a dynamic banking maneuver that will mimic the trajectory of future missions that will return to Starbase to reuse the ship. So
Gonna
that
jump
is a
in
brief rundown. Go ahead.
really quick, Caden, just because with the new pad, we are definitely seeing things that are different from pad one, what we're used to. So just want to kind of chime in on some of the stuff that's going on pad wise. So many of you have probably noticed by now that the tower is starting to vent. We did have that up on screen a few seconds ago, and you can also see it from this view as well too. So this vent actually normally doesn't start venting quite this early. We are still an hour and 40 minutes out. Interestingly, this vent actually had to be replaced a few days ago. They did have like a triple vent that was kind of like a trident. Is that the right descriptor for that? So they're basically splitting it into three different flows. And for some reason or another, they ended up having to replace that. It's guessing, with the amount of volume that they were pushing through that, they had some pressure related issues once it's split into three different paths. So they actually replaced that over the span of a single day and got it back up and going. And now they're good to go on that. I think that was about a week ago, if I'm not mistaken, before the first. Was that the first wet dress rehearsal?
I
I think it was
I
after the first one.
Yeah, I want to say I think the first one was a little longer than a week ago.
Yeah. So yeah, that's going right now. So we'll see quite the fountain come out of that once they get deeper into the chill down phase. From the tank farm, there are also tons of new vents there. That system has been completely rebuilt. Basically, nothing other than some of the LOX tanks actually are still in use from the previous flight. All new pumps on this pad. They have an all new tank pressurization system for those tanks. They have um, new recovery systems for methane, and the new vents for the actual um, subcoolers as well too. So whereas they previously had multiple vents for the subcoolers, now all of the LOX ones are combined into a single vent. All of the methane ones are combined into their own vent as well. And for the ship, I think there's a separate pair of vents for the methane um, pumps as well too. So there's 3 separate vents just coming from the pumps. There's a set of vents that are next to the methane reclamation tanks, which I don't think we can see from this view. We would probably need a frontal view of the pad. Oh, I guess yeah. So that was actually the better view. So on the right side, right there, you can see the vents right next to the 2 tanks on the bottom right. That is the methane reclamation tanks, and we'll see those venting basically throughout the entire process because as they're cooling down all of the vacuum jacketed plumbing lines, they basically have to capture all of the methane that's boiling off and liquefy it, reliquefy it, and return it back to the tanks essentially. So that's what we're going to be seeing over there. And then along that wall, the blast wall, just in front of those tanks, they have a bunch of new vents. We've been calling them the cannon vents. I'm going to come up with a better name for those, but it's a row of vents that are pointed up at a 45-degree angle along the wall. I think there's like 6 of them. So those ones, it's almost like a, when they retire a plane, is it on the first flight or the last flight where they
It's on the last
drive?
one.
ben-
Yeah, and they
Yeah,
do
when
the
they
big
drive
water
beneath
jets.
the
Yeah.
cannons from the fire trucks. That's basically what it looks like. A row of those going down the side of the wall. Um, haven't quite determined what that's about yet because it is something that they added within the past few weeks. So still working on trying to determine what that's about. But to be honest, I personally haven't had time to watch a test all the way through. Basically since the first static fire test, just because I've been trying to get episodes out. So with that said, I will probably try to make some observations along the way, and I'm sure some people may have already seen some of these things within the subsequent tests from that first static fire test. But I'm going to try to point out some details of things that are happening along the way. So I'll try to jump in lightly, Caden, whenever we reach those moments.
Sounds good to me. And real quick, I'm just going to run through some more people showing their extended support. So we had a $20 super chat from Gary Peak 607 saying, "Thank you, Lab and team, for all that you do. Thank you for being here and for showing that support." We've also got a little bit of a a little bit of a check-in. So 55 Chevy guy says that Mauser has got him beat by 4 months. He's been a member for 72 consecutive months. Yazada says the same thing. And then Shesh82 says Mauser's got him beat by 2 years. He's been a member for a measly 48 months.
Oh, right on. Thank you all, everybody, for all your support. And sometimes they kind of speed by too fast for us to see. I think I missed a couple of people up there earlier. We have thousands of subscribers and thousands of members that like to show their support like this. So once again, I just want to say thank you to everybody for all the support over the years. It's been a fun ride watching all of this happen out here at Starbase. So yeah.
Zach, you got to get your numbers up. 53 months. Tisk tisk. We did get a few questions in chat as well, and I can pull some of those up. So
Just to cut you off there, this is actually my CSI account, so that doesn't count. That's how I keep track of how long it's been since my first YouTube video. But so I'm gonna figure out what my actual account, my personal account, is at. So stand by. You go ahead and do what you're about to do, but I just wanted to let you know that 53
okay.
months. I think I'm
Gotcha.
beyond that.
But who's counting? All right. So we got a few questions coming up. So first is from Steamboat Sam asking, will you be streaming SpaceX's stream during this? Yes, SpaceX will be going live 45 minutes before T0. And as soon as they're up and have got commentary going, we'll be listening to them. Andy Alder 1 says, will the two modified Starlinks have thrusters? According to the information that we've gotten from SpaceX so far, I don't believe they will. And I also don't think there would really be a reason for them to, because they're going to be burning up in the atmosphere anyway. But what we do know is that they are special. They are, quote, specially modified per SpaceX. They will test hardware planned for Starlink V3 and will attempt to scan Starship's heat shield and transmit imagery down to operators to test methods of analyzing Starship's heat shield readiness for return to launch site on future missions. So that's the extent of what we know. They haven't been super clear about what exact hardware that they're planning for Starlink V3 that they're wanting to test here. But I'm willing to bet that thrusters are not among that hardware, because I just don't really see them getting the chance to test thrusters. They're not in orbit or space for long enough. It would be cool though if we could see, like, after they deployed, if we managed to get live views from those satellites, if we could see like what exactly they're testing. Maybe they're testing the solar panels or something like that. And then Shesh82 question, what are the commentators' launch predictions? Oh boy. I guess I'll go first. Number one, excitement guaranteed. That's less of a prediction and more a fact at this point. But I think that if they do launch today, and I'm still skeptical that they're even going to, but if they do, I think on the booster side, they get to Seco, they get to stage sep. I think we might lose it around boost back or the landing burn. I don't think it makes it to splashdown. And then on the ship side, we've seen a pattern of new iterations of the ship either not making it to Seco or making it to Seco and losing control before entry. However, I do think if they can keep it stable when they get to re-entry, it's coming down to the ocean. I think that heat shield's going to stand. So that's my prediction on that side. But I'd like to hear you guys what you think.
Well, I'm a team super heavy kind of guy. So I've always been, and I hate to say this, but slightly more impressed with super heavy than the ship as far as what they accomplished and what they have accomplished so far, as far as pretty much flawless on almost everything since what flight 3
It's right around flight
4.
4. Yeah.
Yeah. So and a lot of the problems that the super heavy team has had aren't really their fault. They're the Raptors' fault. So that's a completely different team. And a lot of the they've had to do a lot to accommodate issues that Raptor 2 had. And so they actually made the Raptor team look better, in my opinion. So with that said, if Raptor 3 is more reliable than Raptor 2, which it does seem to be, I think that Super Heavy is probably going to do everything that it's supposed to do today. I will say, though, that there are some things on Super Heavy that have not been tested yet. Well, sorry, there's a lot of things, but there are some critical things that will determine whether or not it survives. One of those things would be the new external plumbing along the aft section. They do not actually know whether that will survive the landing burn. There are some indications that they're currently trying to figure that out over at McGregor. But right now, given that they're trying to figure that out at McGregor, it seems clear that they don't know whether or not it will survive, because that's a ton of critical external plumbing on the outer perimeter of the vehicle. I think most of it, I'd have to double check. I think most of it is for the outer 20 engines. But yeah, it's still very important for that stuff to survive on reentry. But yeah, I think that the amount of things that can go wrong for Super Heavy have decreased significantly, especially with the removal of the heat shield. That was a big area that if they didn't properly purge that area, then they could end up with buildup of explosive gases within the within that shielding. And now with that being gone, I think that it just reduces the amount of things that could possibly go wrong for Super Heavy. So I think I expect that one to have a soft touchdown. The ship, I'm not really sure. I know that they've changed plumbing on the ship once again, but it is closer. V3 ship is closer to a V2 ship than a V3 booster is to a V2 booster for sure. So I think with that said, they're probably. I think I have a high confidence for the ship as well too. And just to point out, those cannon vents that I was talking about have just started going here a little bit ago. I think we're seeing 5 of them currently, but I do believe there are 6. And I wish I could tell you what that means as far as where we've entered in the countdown, but maybe I'll have some thoughts on that in a little bit.
Gotcha. And yeah, with regards to the ship, it seems most of the upgrades have been in the way of the aft section of the ship. Just like the booster, no more individual engine shrouds, and they've also deleted the aft cavity that was causing them some issues in some of the version 2 flights, and also required pretty extensive environmental control. On top of that, we've also got, I believe, the aft flap actuation system has been upgraded. They're using a different actuation system now. It's escaping me how exactly they upgraded that, but it seems most of the upgrades have been in the way of propulsion. So perhaps I'm being a little too pessimistic about the ship. Maybe I need to have a little more hope in it.
Yeah, and I mean with the booster, the I will say that and tower vent has just picked up in volume a little bit. Uh, Maybe that was just a little surge, but we'll keep an eye on that. So with the booster, overall, what they're trying to do is a lot more aggressive, and this is really interesting actually because when I did a lot of analyzing the telemetry over the first 11 flights. Well, probably the first 8 flights until they started changing the user interface layout and they stopped showing unbroken telemetry for the booster. But it was almost obvious. And by the way, shout out to Mauser because that he made it a lot easier to actually pull that telemetry into a usable format. But in one of the things that I always noticed in that telemetry was that it always looked like Super Heavy was underperforming. And I think I even asked Jax and a few other people like if they had any idea of why they would be doing that. It almost looked like they were limited on the amount of G forces they could pull, and so they were intentionally underperforming on the booster. So that is one of the things that I think that whatever was causing that, whether it's the pad as far as not wanting to jump off of the pad with too much force, or being structurally limited through max Q where they couldn't exceed a certain acceleration through max Q. I believe whatever was causing that has been resolved, and so now we're going to see a much more aggressive flight profile, which means in general more aggressive procedures from the booster. With one of those being the ignition sequence, which if y'all have seen the static fires, you probably have noticed that Super Heavy now ignites all 33 engines at the same time. There is a slight stagger between them, but it's on the order of milliseconds, which is a lot tighter than it was before, to the point where you in real time speed you can't see it. You can see it. You could see it with the version 2 vehicles. You could see the 3 groups. Those 3 groups are gone now. It is a single group, but they are staggered within that group. In order to do that, they had to massively increase the size of the downcomer of the booster, the methane transfer tube. That was always their limitation on how rapidly they could start up those engines, because if you do it too fast, you can collapse that downcomer. If you basically go from 0 to, let's say, 50 miles an hour on how fast the fluid is flowing through that tube, that could cause a really large pressure differential and actually collapse that downcomer. So they had to increase the size of that in order to allow them to ignite all of those engines at the same time. And it also allows them to shut them all off at the same time, which is going to actually give them the benefit of what hot staging was intended to do. So that was one of the big things that with the last version of the vehicle is that the hot staging thing kind of came out of nowhere, and they did a lot of things in order to enable the vehicle to do that. But it still wasn't, they weren't actually getting the full benefit out of hot staging. And part of that was um, through the shutdown sequence. So, having to shut down in, I think it was pairs of four. I can't remember off the top of my head. Um, that should be gone. They should go from um, 33 down to 3 very rapidly. It may not be instantaneous, but it will be significantly faster than what we've seen in the past. And that will allow them to basically, have booster main engine cut off and then ship ignition very shortly after instead of having I think it was like 3 to 5 second delay in there. So removing that delay is going to help them out a lot in terms of actually getting more mass to orbit. Um, but it also just in general puts more stress on Super Heavy. So yeah, in general, Super Heavy has got a much bigger job than it did 7 months ago.
Oh yeah. And yeah, that footage that they had from inside the pad of the 33 engine static fire with all of the engines starting up essentially at the same time was unreal. I mean, that's incredible. And like just the way that it looked with the new deluge and the new flame diverter is just you can really see the difference in power with Raptor 3. It's awesome. I really hope we get to see that again today. But my
Well, one thing
personal
on that though, I don't know if that's necessarily true, because one thing that they were doing with Pad One is uh, I don't think they ever exceeded a thrust weight ratio of 1 on Pad One. I think they started those engines up at whatever their lowest setting was, probably like 40% if I remember correctly. And I don't think they ever exceeded a thrust to weight ratio of 1 because the clamps on the launch mount on for Pad One weren't true hold down clamps. Um, I don't think they ever truly exceeded a thrust to weight ratio of 1. But with the static fire test of Booster 19, SpaceX came out and said that they did a full thrust um, uh, static fire, which would, I think, according to Ryan Hansen Space, who did this calculation, I think it was a thrust to weight ratio of 2.4, which is crazy. So we definitely saw more thrust out of that during that static fire test than we ever saw, even on launch day on Pad One.
yeah.
Because they never lifted off at full thrust. So that was one of the big differences. That was one of the reasons why Labs truck got damaged so heavily, because that was just significantly more thrust than we've ever seen. Not just purely because of the vehicle being able to do it, not the Raptors, but because the pad itself is able to lock down the vehicle now in order to enable them to do that.
Yeah, and so thrust to weight ratio of was it 2.14? Was that with just the booster or is that
2.4,
considering the full 2.4? Is that with just the booster or the full stack would be
just the
2.4?
booster.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the TWR is with the full stack. I think SpaceX has that on there.
I'm sure it's still far more substantial than we saw with versions 1 and 2 though.
Yeah, it should be a 10% increase, right?
Yeah, SpaceX have mentioned 10% increase a lot. My personal favorite upgrade with Super Heavy though, and a lot of people have come out and said that they don't like this, but I think it's really cool. Is you can see it here. They did not forget to install the fourth grid fin. There are only 3 grid fins on the vehicle now, and they've also been repositioned, both relative to each other and also relative to the booster itself. They are now separated 90 degrees apart, and they are 50% larger and 50% stronger, according to SpaceX. They're a different shape now. They're not just squares. And they have been lowered on the booster to alleviate some of the damage that they would get from Starship's engines during hot staging. And also, which this is the craziest part of it to me, is all of the actuation systems, all of the internals of the grid fins are now inside the booster's main fuel tank. And that actually protects them from the forces of hot staging. And makes them more reliable. So all the grid fin upgrades I have really been interested in, and it looks strange with there only being 3 grid fins, but it is the most SpaceX change ever to just have only 3 fins because that's all you need.
Yeah, it definitely does look strange having three. It just doesn't look right. Uh, and I've always thought the way those grid fins are, they just seem counterintuitive when this thing's flying, like it's just not going to work. But I guess they don't have a problem with them.
Oh, and someone in chat actually, yeah, just pointed out the other really neat thing is, yeah, so there's no longer catch pins on the booster like we had previously. The booster is now lifted up and caught directly by the grid fins. There are little points on the fins that it lands on. So I believe when the catch idea was first mentioned by Elon, he mentioned that it was going to land on the fins, and we didn't exactly know what that meant at the time. And later they added the pins. They were like, oh, that's what we meant. But nope, they have always wanted to land directly on the fins.
Yeah, I remember that being said, and I always thought that they were going to land on the fins. And then when they started using those catch pins, those things are so tiny in comparison. Like everything has to be just in alignment to catch just right. And I'm telling you, these guys, they know what they're doing.
I'd say they're almost about the same size still. It seems to be, instead of a single point, it's more of a it's a little bit longer, I would say, and it's shaped in order to allow it to sway back and forth once it lands. It's kind of like a rocker, basically. But yeah, I mean, I think that they would never have been able to do it with 4 grid fins, because then they would have had to basically had all 4 grid fins having contact points with the chopsticks. So part of moving to 3 grid fins was to enable them to use those grid fins to as the landing points.
We had a couple more donations come in a few minutes ago, both $20. One from Sharpie 2026. Much kudos and truly much appreciated. Much appreciated your extended support there. And the other, $20 from Stephen Fraser saying, here, 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 here. Thank you so much, Stephen. Got some questions in chat as well, and I can pull some of these up. I saw earlier, it's not on the platform that I've got here, but Lucid did ask, when are we going to catch the boosters again? Um, I think, if I think they're gonna want probably 2 or 3 splashdowns in before they go for a catch with version 3. It might depend on exact performance during those splashdowns, but I'd say it wouldn't be too long. We've got new chopsticks as well. There's a new chopstick design that SpaceX would want to test. The chopsticks are now shorter to allow for more precise and faster movement, and also for the same reason they have switched from a hydraulic actuation system to an electromechanical one. So I'd say it wouldn't be too long before SpaceX would want to test those things out. We got another one, and I believe this was relevant to what you were talking about earlier, Zach, with the limited throttle when we were launching from Pad 1. But from Stephen Fraser saying, how long after ignition until the booster throttles up for launch? My understanding is that it'll be at full thrust at liftoff.
Yeah, I do think it'll lift off at full thrust. I think um, in a lot of ways, it actually helps them out. Um, on pad 1, it did not help them at all, because it would have just dumped so much more thermal energy into the um, deluge plate, and also to on the launch deck, which they were trying to limit in order to stretch as many flights as they could. But now, like I was saying earlier, not having to worry about that, they are probably just going to want to get off the pad as quickly as possible. And to some degree, the faster you do it, the better, as far as for the pad. But as long as the pad can withstand that amount of thermal energy, doing it for a shorter time, if it can withstand it, is probably going to be the better way to go. So that's one of the big things I think with both the pad design and the V3 booster design was enabling them to do that.
And I can answer a question from chat real quick. Someone asked, why is why is NASA spying on the Starship launch with a WD-40 plane? And I believe what they're referring to there is the WB-57, which is a specialized NASA plane that gets sent out to several launches, including the Starship ones, to image the launch from the air. And what that is supposed to do is it's just aerial imagery for extra analysis of the flight. I believe what they do exactly is thermal imagery is what they specialize in. They've also brought planes out, NASA has, in the reentry zones, or at least they've talked about it. I don't know if they've actually done it. But the WB-57 has been present for almost all, if not all, of the Starship launches. So that's what that's for. Question from Crane Man: was SpaceX able to perform all tests at Massey's for Flight 12? So with the vehicles, all of the tests except for the booster static fires, as well as the full stack wet dress rehearsal, those were all done at Massey's. And the booster static fires and the full WDR, of course, both of those had to happen at Pad 2, because there's no other place that you can static fire a booster, and there's also no other place that you can have a full vehicle stacked. But for the vehicles, yes, all other tests were performed at Massey's. There's also a very, very uncountable number of tests that they've done on Pad 2, with just the new pad systems, with the deluge and the detonation suppression and the tank farm and all of the many new redesign systems that Zach is the expert on.
Yeah, I actually did some calculations. I still need to update them currently because I'm kind of stopped after I was getting ready to release this latest episode. But um, as of May 5th, they had performed um, basically 45 individual deluge tests, and so some of those are combined tests as far as the apex and the flame diverter being tested at the same time, but individually it was up to 45 individual tests at that point, and that was 15 or 16 days ago. And also during that time, they and this is the crazy part, they circulated roughly 8 point sorry, 8,693,000 gallons of water. So if we factored in what's happened after that, I would say we're probably somewhere around 1.5 million gallons of water. Um, sorry, 15 million gallons of water through that system, which is insane. I mean, to put that into perspective, with Pad 1, I think before the first flight, like they probably ran maybe 600,000 gallons through that, like maybe. Um, but with, I mean, let's just put it at a million, round up. Um, so this is 15 times more testing they did on this system in order to get it ready for launch. And there's a ton of reasons for that, but I mean, it's been crazy to see the amount of testing they've had to do with that system in order to verify that it was good to go.
And I'll chime in briefly here. We had a $100 super chat from Street Wobbler saying, we're so excited for our first launch, and thanks to the crew for all that they do. Thank you so much for your extended support. The $100 super chat that is going straight to the new camera fund. But we are just updating the countdown. We are 1 hour and 8 minutes away currently from the targeted T0 of Starship Flight 12. As of now, it seems like everything is proceeding as expected in the countdown. Our next milestone, and our first really major milestone of the countdown, is in 18 minutes. We will have the go for prop load from the SpaceX launch director. So Another thing that is new with version 3, and seems like just about everything is brand new, is the redesigned GSE, the redesigned tank farm, and the redesigned quick disconnects. They can fuel the vehicles significantly faster than previously. And I've seen some of the numbers that SpaceX have given, and they're escaping me right now, but it was just unbelievable. Like,
Full prop load is 32 minutes.
wow. And I've seen, like, in the wet dress rehearsals and some of the other prop loading tests that we've seen, you can actually see the frost lines on the vehicles rise in real time. You can look, and you can look at the ship or the booster, and like 30 seconds later you can look back at it and the frost line has gone up like by a noticeable amount. You don't like it's unbelievable how quick they are able to fuel the largest rocket ever built.
That actually is funny to me because um, in the past, I think this only happens on Reddit, but people like to argue a lot on Reddit. A lot of people have said, well, you can't see the actual propellant level. It's delayed. And it's like, no, you can see it when with how quickly they're going, you can definitely see it. And you could tell basically as soon as it reaches the top is when propellant loading ends. So it takes, I would say the delay is less than a minute when you can actually see the frost, um, as far as like where the actual level is. So it's really crazy just watching how fast I mean, and honestly, it makes the launch coverage uh, a lot easier because you're not sitting there for. I remember the first few launches was it an hour and a half or sorry, yeah,
It was
yeah,
somewhere
because it
around an
dropped
hour
from
and a
90
half, yeah.
minutes down to 45, and now we're all the way down to 32. So, I mean, that propellant loading used to be agonizingly slow, and you're just sitting there the whole time. They didn't even start um, the launch broadcast until, you know, an hour into propellant loading. So, now they can start 45 minutes before launch, and you basically, I think, will probably catch the entire propellant loading cycle during that time, which is going to be a new thing for us for sure.
Yeah, and one thing that's been very interesting to me, because I don't know if very many launch vehicles do this. I certainly haven't seen it in very many others, but one of the big changes made to Pad 2 is now there are two different quick disconnects on Super Heavy. There is one for liquid methane and one for liquid oxygen. And essentially, all of the systems for liquid methane and liquid oxygen have been pretty much isolated from each other in the new pad design, as far as I understand it. And that's been really interesting to me because I haven't heard of very many other launch vehicles doing that, except for I know SLS on the core stage uses separate QDs for LH2 and for LOX.
Uh, I thought Falcon. I could be wrong. I thought
Oh, we have
Falcon 9
someone
does
in
that as
chat
well.
actually that just said actually most rockets have separate QDs. So
Yeah, I was
I'm
about to say,
mistaken
I'm pretty
there.
sure
All
they
right.
all do. I mean, in
All right. So
general, it's
the
just safer, not having them next to each other. Honestly, that was always one of the things that I found was crazy, especially during I want to say it was booster 4 testing, the only time that we got to see them retract the QD without the enclosure on the backside. And when they actually retracted the QD, you could see how much residual gas would have been inside that enclosed space, which is just insane. Like I honestly couldn't believe that they were loading propellant the way that they were in the past. Um, that caused a lot of problems for them. So that was a high priority to switch over to a dual QD system.
Yeah, and I'm sure it definitely increases reliability and I'm sure to a certain extent, it's an easier system to work with.
And we are now just over an hour, 1 hour and 3 minutes out. And it looks like SpaceX just pushed us out. They're now targeting 6 p.m.
Let's see here.
Ruh-roh.
Yep, looks like we are now targeting 6 p.m. Central. So another 30 minutes added to the timeline, and no reason given by SpaceX for that, but I'm assuming they're probably giving it a little more time for weather.
Are more clouds coming in right now, Lab?
No, it's actually, we got blue skies to the east southeast. There
You
is
can
some
see it on
cloud.
this view.
There is a little bit of cloud coverage to the north and northwest, and I guess it is coming this way. But if they'd hurry up and just launch it now, we'd be all right. Let's go for prop load now. Let's get it over with.
Yeah, 32 minutes. You can be gone an hour early. Well, the window doesn't start till 5:30, so.
Hey, well, we could just do an SN8 style and just go for it.
Ask for forgiveness, not permission.
That's my motto.
But in the meantime, we did get 2 more donations. One from Just Martin UK with £2 sterling, saying super excited. Yes, we are super excited here, despite the 30-minute delay. Just means we have 30 more minutes to contain our excitement. And then another donation from Hippie Joe, 3566, $5, saying let's light this candle. Let's light these 33 candles. 33 very explosive, nominally explosive candles.
I'm super excited for this. It's weird going from wishing for a delay to hoping it goes off today.
It feels like
Yeah.
the vibes today feel similar to Flight 1 because, I mean, it is, for the version of Starship that we are expecting to bring all of the core capabilities online, it is Flight 1.
Flight 1 2.0.
Hey, put those together, that's Flight 12. I'm good at math.
There you have it. Once again, I want to give a shout out to the Rocket Ranch. We are broadcasting out here live at their outpost, just about 3.5 miles from the launch pads. This is just about the closest place you can get to watch. These guys give us the opportunity to broadcast from the media room up here and film from the top of their deck. And if you haven't been out here before, I highly suggest you come out here and watch a launch with us. You definitely will not regret it.
Yeah, I've got to get down there to Rocket Ranch. But nonetheless, excited to be broadcasting today, regardless of location. Excited to see this thing go off. Noticed a lot of people in chat waving hello to Jessica Kirsch. We've got her in chat. A little bit of a local Starbase celebrity, or not even local, just a Starbase celebrity in general.
Howdy, Jessica. Long time no see.
Just under an hour and a half away now. And in case you missed it, Starship Flight 12 is now targeting liftoff at 6 p.m. local time. We had a delay of 30 minutes just a few minutes ago. SpaceX have not stated a reason yet for the 30-minute delay, but now targeting 6 p.m.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see what some of this data pulls through after this launch. I know a lot of people think it's boring data, but our microbarometer and our seismograph uh, are live right now, and we're waiting to see what kind of measurements we see with these new Raptor 3 engines.
I was about to say, I'm particularly curious in that seismograph to see the difference between versions 1 and 2 and version 3.
Yeah, I was combing over some of the data from the static fire and some of the previous static fires and launches, and as loud as they are, the pressure and the pressure that they make from from 6 miles away, 7 miles away on the island, South Padre Island, it the pressure doesn't even come close to damaging thresholds. So I know there's a lot of people that are there's lawsuits that are going on and trying to blame SpaceX for their cracking houses that were probably cracking already. But and I would say that these launches may be uh, showing pre-existing damage that you didn't actually get to see before, but direct
Yeah, but
damage,
the
no.
the weird thing about that is that, SpaceX has, and maybe some of the people who are doing these lawsuits are not aware of this, but they have been monitoring that the decibel levels at different distances since flight 1. So the data is already out there that would confirm whether or not the damage that they're talking about is physically possible. I mean, things falling off of shelves, probably, but actual structural damage to homes, uh, not
No,
likely.
not even. I see I've been at home during the static fires. My house is about 7.5 miles away as a crow flies from the launch sites, and the windows shake, things rattle, but there's no way that anything's gonna actually break unless it's already broken.
I did see someone in chat say it's more likely that any damage at South Padre Island is from the return sonic booms than the launch. So with RTLS, yeah, those sonic booms are very loud.
They're loud, but looking at the data on them, they're not any louder than the loudest part of the launch. They're just they're unexpected, and it's just a big boom real quick, and it's over. But you're not expecting it when it happens. Sometimes we expect it because we know it's going to happen, but as you're watching the launch happen, it's gradual. It starts as a rumble, gets louder, gets louder. It's like somebody's turning up the volume, and then it gets to max, and then it turns back down. um the sonic booms, it's just like 100 immediately for a quick second,
Mm.
but in the end, it's the same pressure wave, same decibels, not any louder. Just seems like it.
Yeah, I've been in Cape Canaveral for a Falcon Heavy launch, and yeah, those sonic booms, they'll hit you. And that's just for Falcon. I can't imagine what it's like for Super Heavy, but personally, I found that very, very cool. Of course, all of us nerds, I'm sure, can agree that that is an awesome experience. Not everyone agrees with us, but that's all right. And we had a few new questions come in. So one question from Sarah KB7 says, "What's the flight plan for today? Will any of the stages land back at Starbase?" So, nope, neither stage is coming back to Starbase today. The booster 19, will be making an offshore splashdown in the Gulf, and Ship 39 will be circling the globe almost and splashing down in the Indian Ocean, where some of the previous flights have splashed down at. Hopefully, if this goes well, then one of the upcoming flights, possibly as soon as next flight, if we're lucky, we'll start seeing Super Heavy come back to the launch site for catches, and hopefully the ship will be not too far behind it. But as of now, it's pretty similar flight plan to several of the previous flights. A suborbital trajectory for the ship with the booster landing offshore and the ship landing in the Indian Ocean. And on that same topic, we have a question of, does anyone have a map of the flight path, looking to see if you might be able to spot a small glint in the sky as Starship passes West Africa? I've seen some maps of the flight path from based on like temporary flight restrictions that have been put in place by the FAA, but most of those are like closer to Starbase and out into the Gulf. Um, I'm not sure. Maybe Zach or Lab, you guys might have more information on where there might be an actual map of the orbital flight path.
Yeah, I know for sure that the space engineer posted it on his page. So what I can do is send that.
The space
You
engineer
know,
keeps up with just about everything. I think he's a pretty good bet for almost anything Starship.
yeah, honestly, to like when I'm working on episodes, like especially if I'm trying to like meet a certain deadline, I kind of stop paying attention to things. And I don't know, people who follow me on X have probably noticed that. Um,
Oh, and
but
we did just
so
have
I
someone
actually
in chat
follow.
post it.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I was sitting here searching for it. So yeah, I do kind of rely on a space engineer for a lot of things when I'm busy trying to get things done. One of the interesting things about that flight path, though, is it is a little bit different. So they're going um, below Cuba and Puerto Rico instead of above them, and it almost looks like they're steering in between every piece of landmass so that they never cross over land, as if it's a little bit more difficult to accomplish going in that direction, and it actually requires a lot of TVC action in order to pull it off.
That'll be a good test of Raptor 3. And I guess that's lessons learned from some of the previous flights where they lost the ship prior to Seco and it re entered over some populated areas. I think Turks and Caicos Islands was one of them. Um, I can't remember if it was just those or maybe some other island chains as well. But yeah, I guess trying to avoid those land masses in case that happens again. I have another question from Sarah asking, has Lab planted replacement Bert and Ernie trees at Rocket Ranch? Lab, have you?
No, I have not, and we do miss those trees. Those were pretty cool. Unfortunately, that is actually leased by SpaceX now, so we don't have any access to that. That whole spot there is the hopper pad, and it's all concrete, all sea containers full of their staged equipment and hardware. So no more trees in the area, unfortunately, Sarah.
Just to point out, they have completely cleared the roadblock, so they've pulled back. Maybe that's a good sign.
Yo, definitely. So that means that they're going to be bringing that roadblock over here to Richardson, right down the road here pretty soon. We
Yeah,
could
look at it.
probably move the Rocket Ranch cam over and look at that road to see if they pop that up. Hopefully, that's what's happening, and they're not going to open the road.
Right.
Yeah, that would
Um,
not be a good
I can
sign.
do that if you would like. I don't know if somebody's already taken care of that.
Go for it.
Cool. And we did have that path up there. I don't know if that was up there for a while. I just noticed it because I was looking at other things. Um, but that was a really good visual. If you want to pull that up back up for a second. Yeah, so you can see it looks very jagged as it's passing through there. Um, and this is a really interesting path. Actually, I feel like it may actually be easier to avoid land going that direction, or you're avoiding the largest land masses.
Yeah, Cuba
um,
and Puerto Rico are your two main concerns. So
Yeah, you got most of it. Or you're just going over the southern tip of Africa.
you know what? I I- I'm hesitant to move the Rocket Ranch cam.
Uh oh, what's going on?
Well, you know me, I just like to watch the tank farm, but we're gonna go ahead and move that.
let's see. Raptor relight happens over. Let me channel my geography nerd in here. I believe that is Namibia that the Raptor relight happens over in South Africa. Just a fun factoid.
I'll keep an eye over here to my back. I can see the Massey outpost from here, and there's nothing going on right now. So you're good to go, Zach.
I am now following them on Rocket Ranch cam, but I don't think Lucid has that one available.
And just an update, I don't know if this was mentioned already. 5:13, so 47 minutes in advance.
Does that mean
I
they've
love the
added a 2-minute cameo from Elon?
perhaps. I love the paint that they've put on the aft end of the booster. I hope they keep that.
Hopefully it keeps itself. I mean, that's the question if it'll
Yeah.
actually survive reentry.
It's already gotten I've seen some close-up images, it's already gotten scratched up a little bit.
Well, if that's the case.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We might see it all peel off as soon as the vehicle lifts off.
Oh,
We did get the return of the SpaceX logo on the payload section, though. I don't think we've seen that in quite a few flights. I've always been an advocate of Starship paint jobs. I think once we start getting operational Starships, they should invest in giving them some unique liveries. That's just that's just me. I mean, if you're gonna
point to
fly
note.
a rocket like an airline, you know?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm actually controlling this camera or not, but we're trying.
While you guys are handling that, I will pull up another couple of donations that we got. Um, both of them from Just Martin UK. So we had a 50 pound sterling donation saying, I do miss you guys. And then another one, another 2 pound sterling donation saying, free Stumpy. Thank you for your extended support, Just Martin. Appreciate that as always. I did see another question come up in chat asking that if SpaceX launches from the Louisiana site, won't they be launching over Florida? So, first of all, we don't know if SpaceX are going to build a Louisiana launch site for Starship. We know at this moment that they are conducting some surveys, some extended surveys of a site in Louisiana for something relating presumably to Starship. We don't know yet if it's going to be a launch site. It's on the coast, so you could possibly make that assumption. But yes, if they were to launch um, in equatorial inclinations or anything similar to that, they would be flying over Florida. It could be possible that they would want to use the Louisiana launch site for polar inclinations, where they then be flying. They would be flying over South America for a good portion of that. But again, the vehicle is returned to launch site, so in theory, that wouldn't be a concern. But of course, you always have to prepare for contingencies. So we'll see. But I think the question that we have to ask first is, will they launch from from Louisiana at all? And that's a question that we just don't have enough information to answer yet.
So I don't know if we want to show this or not, but there's actually a really cool view of the new SpaceX village, which I knew they were going to have some really excellent views, but I didn't realize just how amazing this actually looks. It looks so much different from the air than it does from the ground. But you can see that almost every one of these houses has views from the
That is
roof.
very cool. You see all the cranes in the background.
Yeah, that is the Port of Isabel, I believe, in the background.
No, that's not Port Isabel yet.
Port of Brownsville.
Yeah, probably Brownsville. I don't think you're at Port Isabel.
Is Port
This
of
is still
Trying to
Brownsville the
pretty
scroll
much.
one
without
that
this camera freaking out on me.
is Port of Brownsville the one that You'll Thank Me Later is heading towards, or is that Port of Isabel? Or
It's going. It's going to come through both. Actually, in order
okay,
to come into the Port of Brownsville, you have to come through Port Isabel, through the channel, the jetties there.
gotcha. I'm very excited to see that, to see transport of Starship vehicles horizontally from Starbase to Cape Canaveral. I know there was a time where we thought that was impossible, that you couldn't physically transfer those vehicles horizontally, but they've got bracing structures and infrastructure being set up, as well as that barge. You'll thank me later, to set up that transport. We had a couple more donations coming in. One from Joe Deckard, $50 donation. Thank you very much for your extended support, Joe. And then we had another donation from Irna. This is 14,900 rupiah. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Thank you very much for your support, Joe and Irna.
The skies are still kind of blue right up above us, and to the southeast, those clouds seem to be holding off, still off to the north. So if they can just hold off for another hour and a half, I think we're going to be all right.
That's good news. And SpaceX are currently targeting 6 p.m. Central, and the launch window lasts until 7 p.m. So they've eaten into 30 minutes of the 90-minute launch window. But if they need to delay further, they do have another hour of margin. But hopefully this thing will go off at 6.
All right, looks like that tower vent is approaching where it was right before we were at the delay.
Yep, we're currently sitting at T-minus 1 hour and 9 minutes, just about. Go for prop load should be in about 19 minutes. That'll be at T-minus 50. And I'm sure when that happens, SpaceX will send out an update.
I just saw somebody in not this chat, but saying the tower vent appears to be in waterfall mode.
I did see someone in our chat ask, realistically, how far away are we from a launch of Starship from the Cape? I am cautious about saying that I would expect one this year. I
Definitely.
think I think 2027 is definitely more realistic for the first launch from the Cape.
No, no, no. I mean the other way around. Definitely happening this year, I think.
Oh, really?
Um, yeah, they've already started testing the deluge system. So I would say they're it really depends on what the tank farm is doing because they're still building out the tank farm, but I think the parts of the tank farm they're building out are for extra capacity, not the capacity they need to actually perform a launch. Um, what we do know is that there is the barge. Which one is it that is on its way to Starbase? Um,
That are you thinking of You'll Thank Me Later is the one that
yeah,
they've already built, or
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So that one, I think it's headed to Starbase right now. Um, and it's either Booster 20 or Booster 21, which will be headed down there. So I suspect that they are probably going to start trying to do pad testing with a booster relatively soon down there. I would not be
Wow.
surprised if B20 actually ends up being the one to go. But that depends on how far behind Booster 21 is. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think they're a lot further ahead than what most people realize down there, and they definitely want to be getting that second pad active as soon as possible. I believe right now they were hoping they would already have 2 pads active, but I do suspect that we'll probably see that first launch from the Cape, uh, before the year's over.
Wow, so we could potentially
There you
see as
go,
soon as
speculating again.
Yep, yep, yep.
we could see potentially as soon
I'm gonna
as
hold you to
flight
that.
14, 15.
Alright, I'm gonna go even further. I'll say flight 15 from the Cape.
All right.
Oh
Brave man you
hell.
are, Zach.
13, 14. Yeah, yeah, 15.
I wouldn't be surprised, I will say, I wouldn't be surprised if the first launch from the Cape is in support of the orbital refilling demo, though, because that's the mission where you basically have to have 2 separate pads to get it done.
And we have another delay.
Oh, do we? Do we have another delay?
Hold on a second. I think
Yeah, I'm hearing the same thing over here in my other ear. Not sure what the time is yet, but it looks like we have another
6:30.
delay.
We saying 6:30?
6:30.
I see somebody in the chat saying, "Just waiting for the mobile launch tower prediction from Zach." Hey, man, you can't win them all. I I've hit a lot of them, and I've also missed a few. So that is a big miss right there. But I usually own up to all of them. I think I even included a little whole 10-minute explanation about that 2 episodes ago. So I try to uh, I try to admit when I'm wrong about things, but I think in for a lot of this stuff, we really have to rely on our own speculation at times until SpaceX decides to tell us certain things, and often they don't tell us anything. So we have to just wait until it happens until we actually can see what the truth is. Um, but on that note, given that this flight broadcast is going to be 45 minutes long, I'm hoping that or sorry, 47 minutes long. I hope we get a lot more information than what we normally get. Um, and it seems like they're reaching a new level when it comes to that. With the construction of the Gigabay and basically blocking the view of the ring yard, as well as just the Star Factory as well. It feels like we're losing most of the views, which we certainly are. Um, but at the same time, it seems like SpaceX might be picking up their own internal efforts to increase their media output. They have done a lot less of that over the past 7 months, but I think that they've shown now with that recent was it 23-minute documentary that they released. That is probably the first of many that are going to be coming out. So I think that we'll actually learn more from SpaceX than we have in the past and rely on speculation less. So
Yeah, that
appreciate that.
yeah, that test like you fly doc was really neat, and they did mention, I believe, that it was the first in a series. But yeah, SpaceX just made it official. They just tweeted out that Flight 12 has been delayed to 6:30 Central. So 30 more minutes. And the launch window ends at 7 p.m., just as a reminder. So they got another half hour of margin remaining. But we are now at T minus 1 hour and just a little over 32 minutes. And still no explanation as to what's up with the delay. It could be weather related, it could be vehicle related. Not quite sure.
I think my dog heard you say that it's been delayed to 6:30. She's like, that's cutting into my dinner time.
Couple more donations coming in. One from Jolly Roger 5066, a $20 donation for Labs Root Beer Fund. And let's light this candle. And then a $19.99 donation from WX Dave. Been with Labs since around SN5. My, how far we've come. Thank you. Yeah, SN5, I believe, was also the first Starship launch that I saw live. I'd been following the program since around Hopper, but SN5 was the first one that I actually saw when it happened. And yeah, we've come quite far from the old days of tank watching. Quite a few more questions coming in. So, question from William Hill says, will Starship use flight computers to take control of the countdown? Yep. So, once we are inside, I believe the last 40 seconds of the countdown is when Starship is on its own countdown, and it's taking control and it's counting down on its own. I believe that's what the 40-second hold point is for, if I'm not mistaken. Or it's just a general check-in point for all teams if they need to get anything in order in the last 40 seconds of flight. But I think after that point is when Starship is controlling the countdown. And it still has the capability within those last few seconds to hold or recycle if it needs to. We've seen that happen a couple of times. But those last 40 seconds, that's pretty much go time. This might be a good question for Zach. What is the status of the LNG terminal they were planning?
I don't know, actually. The last thing I saw was that they actually finally acknowledged that they were doing that. The LNG facility itself is coming along pretty well. I think it's still got another year until it's open, though. But I don't think that existing part of that facility is meant to support that operation. So there's a lot less information about that, but there is more information about the ASU, which is right there in the background, just to the right of the launch mount. A bit of an eyesore, but it's a good sign, because I don't know if you guys were watching yesterday after the partial wet dress rehearsal. The highway was backed up with liquid nitrogen and LOX tankers and water trucks all the way back to the build site. And so that's something we've never actually seen before. And to be honest, I'm still a bit confused why that happened, because it almost seemed like the tanks were only half filled before the wet dress rehearsal, which is really odd. I don't think we've ever seen quite a surge of tankers like that before. But there are some reasons why that happened. If you guys follow me on X, then you may have seen my post about this. The reason that massive buildup of tankers was even able to happen is because of the fact that the facility where they now get their liquid nitrogen is located in Brownsville. And up until about 3 months ago, that they were getting liquid nitrogen and oxygen from Houston, which is, I believe, a 20-hour round trip. So they turned a 20-hour round trip into a um, less than 2-hour trip. Um, so that allows them to not only run more trucks, but to turn them around quicker. So by the time that uh, you know the line basically seemed like it never got any smaller because those trucks were leaving and turning around so fast that the line just stayed as long as it was. There's just an endless stream of trucks. Um, with that ASU in the background, once that is active, I want to say about 90% of those trucks will no longer be in that line. Maybe sorry, probably 75% because there was a lot of water trucks as well too. And the big thing with that ASU is that they actually don't have the power to run it currently because with pad 2 when both launch pads are operational at the same time, the power draw from those is very massive, and you just cannot support the ASU at the same time because that's a type of facility that ideally needs to run continuously. So you can't just steal power from it. But what I think they're going to do, there seems to be signs of, while Pad 1 is offline, it seems like they're going to steal the power from Pad 1 and use it to power the ASU while the new transmission line is being installed. The weird thing about that is, though, there's no way they're going to build an entire transmission line from Brownsville to here within the time that it takes for Pad 1 to come back online. So I'm not sure what the long-term plan is for that, but I'm sure we'll start seeing signs of it soon. And I'm honestly surprised if that we haven't. I don't know, Lab, you've been driving up and down um, Highway 4. Have you noticed any new uh, infrastructure being set up there for that transmission line?
Negative. There hasn't been any sign other than the new lines that they put up, a year or so ago.
Yeah.
But you're right, though. They are going to need a lot more electricity, and I don't know if they're going to do that. That's going to take some time. And I will say that once they get that ASU unit going, those tanker companies are going to be sick.
Yeah, I actually felt bad when I posted that yesterday because I'm like, I mean, job security is not looking good right now. If you're transporting that stuff, um, and same thing with water as well too, because with the water, they do have a municipal water supply that's basically tapping into the Brownsville supply, which um, I thought was nearing completion, but I have seen some recent videos of people driving up Highway 4, and I was specifically looking for that, and it doesn't look like it's complete yet. They're still working on it. So
Oh yeah,
before the end
they
of the
have a
year,
lot. They have a lot of work to do still. I've been watching them put that pipe together and burying it. They still have quite a few miles to go.
yeah, it is not it's not a fast job. I thought they were close to being done, because they were. If any of you have seen the latest episode that I released yesterday, I am actually probably gonna have to make some corrections at the beginning of it, of part 4, actually, because of some new things that we learned yesterday in the flyover. But it's actually really cool. So what I initially thought was that drained when they drained the or sorry, when the new transmission line comes online for water, they initially, because of all the construction debris within that line, they will have to flush the entire system out. So basically you're pumping a 15-mile line worth of 8-inch pipe from all the way from Brownsville. So like a 15-mile line worth of water all the way out. You got to pump it all the way out to the end. And so I actually did see a day where I thought they were doing that, where they were sucking out all that water, but that was before I realized that they're still constructing that line. So um, but what we did realize yesterday in the flyover is that they're actually using the retention pond to load the tanks. So instead of only using the offloading station, apparently, and I need to go back and double check this myself, but Ryan Hansen Space told me this yesterday, and I trust him, so that's the only reason I'm saying this now, but I do need to verify it myself, that they're offloading into the retention pond and then sucking the water from the retention pond over to the water tanks, which is definitely unexpected. I almost had a hard time believing him when he told me that. Uh, but an interesting way of offloading multiple tankers at the same time. Um, yeah, but once they have that line open, it'll be really fast. I mean, they should be able to fully top off the tanks within, a few hours. Um, so I mean, it yeah, as much as it sucks for, um, the people who are transporting that water, at the end of the day, if you've ever driven up Highway 4, you already know that it's in everybody's best interest to have less tankers on the road. It's in the road's best interest, and it's also in the people who are driving along that road's best interest.
That's another
The
reason. That's another reason what's taking that water line so long to be constructed is the road expansion. They're doubling up the highway width, and that's taking quite a bit of time. I did a quick, just some quick math here, and that 15-mile length of pipe at 8 inches is a little over 206,000 gallons of water.
Yeah, that's why I actually did that calculation as well. Because the day that all of those tankers were coming, I was counting how many of them there were to see if it was the volume of the expected line. And that was like kind of how I was determining whether or not it was online or not. But then I talked to Dave Avery the next day. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's active. And he's like, no, I just drove up it the other day and it's definitely not active. So I'm pretty sure that was just them offloading water, which is surprised I didn't notice what was happening then. 200,000 gallons of water sounds like a lot, but that is 23,000 gallons more than what just the launch deck, the water tanks for the launch deck. They hold 177,000 gallons. So that is basically it takes the entire length, 15-mile length of that line to fill just the tanks for the water cooled launch deck. Um, but it's also important to remember that that's also going to be
Well,
supplying mass
once they
use.
build
Mhm. What was that, Lab?
I was going to say once they build that desalination plant that they're talking about here. I was saying that once they build that desalination plant that they're talking about around here, water shouldn't be an issue.
When did they announce that? I actually hadn't heard that. Is that specifically
Well,
for
I mean,
Brownsville
they
or is
didn't
it
announce
for
it as part of
Starbase?
a SpaceX. That's for Brownsville and South Padre Island.
Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of the Gulf Coast
I
is
think they
in the
actually want to
process of trying
build
to
it
do.
on South Padre Island.
Yeah, I think a lot of the Gulf Coast is trying to set up desalination plants. I know the Corpus Christi needs one like 2 years ago. Um, so I think there is a lot of them being constructed along the coast.
We had a
And
question
those
come in.
also take some power.
Definitely.
We did have a question come in chat asking, will moving Starship and Super Heavy to the port require a new road?
Sorry, will what require a new road?
Asks, will moving Starship and Super Heavy to the port, presumably for transport to the Cape, will that require a new road?
That road was built 5 years ago. They planned long in advance for this. They were originally planning, and I had a hard time believing it back then, but they were originally planning on um, sending ships and boosters to the Cape way back in 2021 or 20 either 2021 or 2022 when they started building the tower in at 39A. So they've been planning for this a long time, and that road was a super high priority thing for them to do. Not only just for that, but I mean it's everything, all of this large equipment that enters a majority of it, all the tanks, the entire launch mount, the integration tower, all of that has traveled along that bridge that they built, and now they Lab, you may actually know more about this than I do. They're building a new uh, loading dock. like at the port? Like it's like a heavy lift loading dock or something like that. I don't know what the actual name of it is.
The dock that I know of is for the LNG plant. That's about all I know about.
Yes, I know SpaceX is building their own dock for loading boosters and chips. I mean, I think they may have just started a few months ago dredging, using some of the sand that's being dredged from the channel to build up that area, I believe. Um, I'd have to double check on that. But they will be doing that for quite a while too, because right now they do have the Giga Bay in Florida is much further ahead than the one in Starbase. Surprisingly, I was kind of thinking the one in Starbase was going to catch them, but they never ended up doing that. But they have not started the actual Star Factory down there, so they're definitely going to have to support that operation from Starbase for now. How exactly to what degree they do that is the question, because um, the if they send completed vehicles down there and don't actually stack vehicles down there, then that's two very different things. That kind of ties up Starbase for actually being the stacking operation as well. I imagine until the Gigabay in Starbase is fully outfitted, that the Star Factory itself will be able to easily supply the two megabays and the Gigabay in Florida with vehicle components, like with the tank sections. So I think I did actually see a question in the chat if Starbase could support Florida operations, and definitely, even with there only being the two megabays right now, they can easily support that. If you have to remember that right now, this launch today was supposed to be with Booster 18. So, in my opinion, whether that incident happened with Booster 18 or not, we'd probably still be launching today. So if with that said, Booster 19 would have been fully ready to go as far as waiting to perform a static fire test. And at that point, it wouldn't be so weird to expect Booster 20 to be the one to end up going to Florida. So, with that said, I think they're easily able to produce one vehicle per month for Starbase and one for Florida right now. And we haven't even seen them truly start using, well, I guess with boosters they have, and maybe with ships they've recently did start speeding up with sacking. But with boosters, it's been kind of continuous, I guess. I actually haven't seen the status of 21 right now. I don't believe it's fully stacked yet.
Yeah, and they also just recently stated that they're going to convert Just Read the Instructions, the Falcon 9 drone ship, to support Starship operations, and we still haven't really gotten any indication of what exactly that's going to be, but I would imagine it's something similar to what You'll Thank Me Later is doing.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect they need two of them. I don't know if they can put both a booster and a ship on there. I mean, getting the booster on there alone is risky, because if you've ever watched them load those the barges, when when the tower sections, that was really interesting, because you have, as the front wheel of the SPMTs rolls on, it starts pushing the barge down. So then they have to start releasing water from the ballast tanks in order to like raise it up as the vehicle's coming on there. So it's like a synchronized event, keeping it level as it's rolling onto the barge. So doing that with something as long as the booster is going to be interesting, and doing it with the booster and the ship is even more interesting. So I don't know if that barge is wide enough for both vehicles, so they may need them. They may need two just to be able to take a pair, a launch pair down together. Eventually, I guess their priority will probably be with ships. I mean, I imagine they'll send 5 boosters down to the Cape, maybe 10, and then just stop, and then only focus on ships from that point, because then the Cape will have themselves a fleet of 10 boosters that they'll continue reflying. Um, so, yeah, I mean, realistically, it's mostly going to be ships traveling down there.
I did want to give a special shout out. I didn't realize that the $100 super chat street wobbler was a very, very good friend of mine down from from San Antonio, Texas. Robert, thank you very much, man. Glad you made it down here. I sure hope this thing launches so you can check this thing out, man. If it doesn't, I hope you can stay a little bit longer. But great to see you on the stream, and we'll see you once this thing's over.
We are just over 1 hour and 12 minutes to the new T0 now of 6:30 p.m. Central. So we're getting pretty close to the point in the countdown where the last two delays happened. Both of those happened at right around T-minus 1 hour. Sorry, we're just over T-minus 1 hour and 10 minutes, not 12.
Yeah, it looks like those cannons on the wall are picking up. At least the first one is. There were some an interesting thing we could talk about if we. I think I would have to share my screen for it, and I know I told Lucid I wasn't going to need to do that. Maybe I could just Lucid. Would it be better if I just send you the image instead? The heck? Okay. Give me a moment. My computer's doing some weird stuff. I've never seen this issue before, so maybe I'll have to hold off on this for now. Yeah, I wanted to
Yeah, it'll
talk
be
about
in.
the tank farm conversion that they've got going on, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do that at the moment.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how production at the Cape Canaveral site evolves as time goes on when they get that Gigabay online, and then hopefully getting their own Star Factory potentially, or not potentially. I believe that's confirmed that it's going to have its own. But kind of, I guess the goal at some point is to get the Cape Canaveral site essentially operating almost independently from Starbase. I saw someone in chat say they should just fly the ships from Starbase to Cape Canaveral.
So they actually can do that. They can do that with the ships. They can't do it with the boosters. So that actually does speed up the process of getting a fleet of vehicles down to Florida. That does assume, obviously, that they're able to recover the ships, which we're still waiting to see that first attempt. But yeah, that is certainly an option that they have. Okay. It is just doing the same thing that it was doing earlier. Here, give me a second. Cool. All right, so we should be pulling up this image here in the background now that my computer is cooperating. Just give us a second here. All right, so this is obviously an image from RGV. This is the current status of the actual tank farm. For one, you could see just the absurd amount of tankers that were offloading yesterday. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 of them offloading at the same time. And a whole queue of them behind. Oh, looks like a 14th one was about to try to fit between these ones. But so one of the interesting things they've been doing here is they had to do a conversion of their methane farm, which is like the third, I think the fourth conversion of the methane part of the farm. So there was originally 5 really small tanks, and then these 2 big tanks were over here. And they want to. They have several things going on. Number one, they wanted to increase their capacity. So they needed to get bigger tanks, and they got rid of the small tanks by bringing in these 2 really large ones. And so then also to get rid of to increase their capacity so that they have more than just a single launch worth of capacity, they added these tanks. And so now there's a problem because the flame trench for pad 1 basically points directly in this direction. So they actually don't want any of these tanks in these positions. But with the pad expansion, I'm gonna have to actually grab a different image for that, which I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do. The pad expansion, it's just off screen down here to the right, is where that is going to end up being the new methane farm. So they basically, all of this is temporary. So before pad 1 can become operational, this entire methane tank farm is going to have to move. So they basically installed all of these. They removed these. Sorry, they installed these so they could remove those, moved these ones over, and now they have to build the new methane tank farm, and then they'll remove these after after they build that tank farm. It's going to be interesting to see how they do that because there's several ways. They could either completely build out a new methane farm, or they can move tanks over 2 at a time and continue to use both tank farms at the same time during the conversion. But they've been doing this balancing act of building the tank farm for, since 2021, really. So it's like one of the more entertaining things to watch at Starbase if you're actually interested in ground support equipment. But yeah, it's very, very impressive what they've done since the last flight. And as you can see, the new tank farm down here it's pretty cool. They actually have a significantly more pumps, which is part of the reason why they're able to load propellant in whether propellant loading time dropped from so it initially was at 90 minutes. It dropped from 90 to 45. And then with this new upgrade, it's dropped from 45 to 32, I think, which is crazy, especially considering the capacity on both vehicles have increased. So loading more propellant in less time. This is the LOX side, and this is the methane side. You can actually see right here, these are the booster LOX pumps right here, and then the ship LOX pumps there. And then the same thing on the methane side. You have the booster methane pumps and the ship methane pumps. And then all of the vents that we'll see today are coming from these 3 locations. So you have all of the LOX vents kind of vent from the same location, but the ship, you can see the booster vent right here and the ship vent right there. So you'll see all 3 of these on when they start going at the same time. You'll know that propellant loading has officially started. But the amount of venting that comes from this farm is pretty crazy now. These are the cannon vents that I was discussing earlier that are we'll see water falling over the blast wall. But like I said, it's really just impressive the amount of work the tank farm crew. This is job stability right here. If you want a stable job, go work for the GSE team because they just like to convert things for no reason, and play basically a hot potato with or musical chairs, sorry, with GSE equipment and massive cryogenic storage tanks. Um, so yeah, lots of interesting stuff going on over there. You can turn back, Lucid.
$20 saying this thing better fly today. Just wish it would have gone while I was down there earlier this week. Right on. We are excited for launch today, and we thank you for your support there. Just over an hour to go, so hopefully we get off at 6:30. No more delays. And then we had another question come in from this question's not from STS 125, but STS 125 posted it saying, how hot does it get inside the launch mount bunker, the area where the electronics and pipes run up to the rocket? Well, I don't think we have a way of determining exactly how hot it gets, but I'm
We
willing to
kind of
wager
can,
we do.
not directly, but so there are some signs of like how that works. We do know that there's this huge nitrogen purge system in there, which is something that I don't know if they were doing before. Like right now, everything has changed as far as like GSE goes. Not only do they have the vacuum jacketed plumbing, but they also have, I believe, nitrogen purged um, comms equipment. So like all of their conduit is purged with gaseous nitrogen to not only keep uh, basically a neutral environment inside of there, so that you're not like sparking, any methane that might be within the bunker. Um, but I believe they're also purging the entire bunker with nitrogen, probably during the entire propellant loading process. I actually kind of surprised that we don't see it venting from those vents on the launch mount, but I think it's just because it's not super cold nitrogen that they're pushing through there. It's just, warm nitrogen, so we're not actually able to see it venting from those locations. Um, I bet if the wind moves in the right direction and pushes the plume uh, from the tank farm in front of there, we might actually see it happening. But I think that it's probably a lot cooler in there than you would expect. And the other thing that kind of contributes to that is the fact that the plume is not going to actually touch the bunker. So instead of basically through the pad avoidance maneuver, the booster will tip basically in the opposite direction away from the bunker. So it's not going to ever receive direct plume contact other than possibly during landing operations. But even during that, the water cooled launch deck like almost completely uh, covers that bunker, other than the shadow of the LOX the LOX QD. Most of the bunker is actually protected by that. So I think, sorry, I just noticed that the paint is coming off on that booster QD. I think that the temperatures inside of that bunker, like theoretically, assuming the vibration wouldn't kill you, you could probably survive being in there.
We had
I'd
another
be willing to
super
try it.
chat. We had another super chat come in from Alan1414, $10 super chat. Thank you so much for your support, Alan. And someone just mentioned in chat, very important how the new booster QD positions avoid the avoidance maneuver. One of the smartest changes from Pad 1. And yeah, I never really understood why they put the QD where they put it on Pad 1. It always seemed relatively obvious that it would be right in the way of the plume. Maybe they just assumed that it wouldn't suffer as much damage as it did.
I feel like whoever made that decision, never mind. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, maybe it came before they decided to do the pad avoidance maneuver, but I mean, you don't want to you don't want to blast your booster QD with the world's most powerful rocket. That just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Very
I
confusing.
wonder. I wonder if maybe the pad avoidance maneuver, they didn't expect to need it until too late in the game.
I feel like they knew they were gonna do it immediately because, I mean, the one on flight 1 was easily the most aggressive, but that's because engines were failing when it happened.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I think surely they knew that they were gonna do that, so it was really weird without having any kind of anything to protect it. Even now, they technically don't have protection for them. Their protection is just not hitting them with the plume, because the water-cooled launch deck doesn't actually touch those, uh, especially not on the top, and it also, I don't think, protects the, backside of the hold down arms either, so I wouldn't be surprised if they try to if they shift into the pad avoidance maneuver faster than they have in the past, because you're not necessarily worried about the entire stack falling over because it's accelerating so quickly that they may just jump off the pad and immediately tip over to put the plume on the launch deck and off of the backside of the hold down arms. It's going to be fun. I'm excited.
Yeah. And yeah, let's be honest, there was a lot of very questionable choices made for pad 1. Chief among them on flat
Definitely.
one chief among them on flight 1, the lack of any sort of flame diverter or anything at all to protect the concrete underneath the pad.
Okay, we got some heavier tower venting going on now. This is looking good. We're certainly progressed farther than we did the last two times when they um, had the 30-minute delays. So I think we are now into chill down mode for the integration tower and the launch mount as well too. So there are several stages of chill down. Part of the first is just like flooding the actual cryotubes in between the tank farm and the pumps, which we've been seeing the entire time. After that is flooding from the pumps up to in the bottom left corner of the tower. To the left of that, you can see that rack of pipes over there. So they basically chill down everything up to that point, and then all of the venting that they do kind of goes back to the tank farm from there. And then now is kind of really when they've started chilling the between that pipe rack and the actual tower and the launch mount itself. Um, and you will notice that we no longer have the vent that comes from the launch mount, which was a big staple, I guess, of Pad 1. They had the vent on the side, which had like a fan on the inside of it to chop the liquid into basically atomize the liquid on its way out. Um, so while we do still have the tower vent, the one for the launch mount actually goes back to the tank farm. There is one that we will see shortly after they finish loading propellant, which um, is just to drain everything from the bunker. So instead of pushing all of that out, um, they want to go from closing out propellant loading to ignition extremely fast. So instead of like pushing that all the way back to the tank farm, they're just pushing it out from the launch mount itself. And I think they're doing that with both liquid nitrogen and oxygen right now, I want to say. Or sorry, methane and oxygen right now, because of how fast they want to do that closeout. So we will. It's a good thing that we moved the camera because that closeout vent is pretty heavy and it makes it so you can't see anything. So we'll have a pretty good view from here. And this view has gotten a lot better as well too, with the vehicle being basically to the right of the tower instead of behind the tower. So I'm really excited for that.
Yep, and we are 53 minutes away, getting close to the point where SpaceX should pull go for prop load. That'll be in 3 minutes. And as of now, we're still go for 6:30 and SpaceX's stream is still starting in about 8 minutes. So, fingers crossed, think calm thoughts. I saw someone in chat ask if there was a catch today. Nope, there is not. Booster 19 will be splashing down in the Gulf, but
I
they
think we'll
will
see a
do a hover.
simulated catch. We'll see a
Yes.
simulated catch both on the tower and the launch mount. We'll see the deluge activation, and the towers may simulate a catch as well too. Um, One of the things now that we're actually looking at the tower itself, you can see that they added um, cladding around the top of the tower, and they also added a roof on top. Like there was already a roof, but they put a roof on the roof, so it's now double roofed. And that roof has shielding on it, and I believe that is primarily for the ship, and that is because the direction that you can see the ship is facing right now, that it has to land in that same direction on the chopsticks, which means during the flip maneuver, I mean, I'm sure you guys can imagine what that's going to look like. Um, the bottom of the ship will basically have to swing and pass over the top of the integration tower in order to land on the chopsticks. So they have prepared, they started to prepare the tower for that maneuver. Um, it's weird. You almost expect them to like catch the ship backwards so they don't have to do that, but that's just not an option. Um,
Yeah, because they can't rotate it.
I cannot wait for the first ship catch, honestly.
It's gonna look unreal. I gotta be down there
Especially
for
from
that.
this camera view, like this camera angle is gonna be crazy.
Because it's probably gonna look like it's not gonna be able to translate to the sticks because they're probably gonna flip it and it's gonna be like a sizable distance away from the tower, and then they'll translate towards it. That's gonna look so weird.
It's gonna do a goofy maneuver, that's for sure. Honestly, there's a small chance that we may actually see them do the first ship catch on pad 1.
Yeah, using it
But
as a
that
catch
depends.
tower.
Yeah, I think that was originally their plan with pad 2. So if they hadn't have had that series of failures with 34 through 36, um, then they probably would have attempted the first ship catch on pad 1 by now. Um, Sorry, pad 2. I think that was originally their plan because they were really rushed to get those chopsticks ready. And in my opinion, I think they were gearing up for a catch attempt on that tower. So, um, with that said, I don't know if they're going to catch on the same tower that they launched from the first time. To some degree, it would probably be smarter to use pad 2, or sorry, pad 1 for that. Depending on where it's at in construction, you'd rather lose something that you're in the process of building than something that you're actively launching from. So, yeah, it might be smarter overall to do the first ship catch away, as far away from pad 2 as possible.
If you don't mind me chiming in for just a second, we just got a tweet from SpaceX saying that they are go for prop load. So this is very good news. Prop load starts. We'll first see liquid oxygen loading start on ship 39 in about 10 minutes. That'll be followed shortly by LOX loading on booster 19 and methane loading on booster 19 about 4 minutes later.
And they will probably be going live in about 2 minutes.
Yes, sir. I also, part of me wonders if maybe adding the second roof onto the tower might also be a result of lessons learned from Flight 6 when they had to abort Booster 13's catch maneuver because it damaged some of the communication systems on the roof of the tower. I
Yeah, I
remember
think
seeing
part of
that.
that is just not putting the communication stuff on the top of the tower as
It
well.
could also be that.
That they we don't see that on this tower. I was expecting them to add something up there, but they don't. I think they're still using pad 1's equipment currently for that. Um, because they haven't tower's still up there.
Real
Man,
quick
this is
before the
feeling surreal. I can't believe we're already into yeah, I've been watching pad 2 construction for so long that it's crazy that we're actually here now.
It's crazy to imagine it actually supporting a launch and not just being there venting.
Yeah. I've done nothing but pay attention to pad 2 construction for the past 2 years. Like everything else every other video I've made, set back my understanding of pad 2, and that's how I viewed them.
Before the SpaceX stream starts, which should be very, very soon, I will take one question here from our beloved Lucid. He asks, what kind of flight profile would they have to take to catch the ship? How many orbits will it have to make before the catch? I believe we actually have a really pretty good answer for this, and that is that on the first catch, at least, Starship technically won't be making a full orbit, or it will be making exactly one full orbit. Coming straight back to Starbase. I believe that's the plan. And then we know that they've already tested some elements of the flight profile coming in for a catch with the dynamic banking maneuver to steer the ship towards the launch site. They tested that
If
over the Indian Ocean on flight 11, and they're going to be testing it on this flight. So we already have a
that's the
little bit of an
case
idea.
if that's the case, then they're probably not going to do it on pad 2. Because
I would
theoretically the booster should be sitting on the launch mount at that time.
Right. Yeah, I would not be surprised if the first catch maneuver, the first few catch maneuvers with the ship are done with a separate tower.
But it would be cool if the
It
booster
would be
was on
cool.
the launch mount when they do that. I mean, it would show a lot of confidence for sure,
Mhm.
um, which they're known to do. I mean, they do sometimes. I think they're a little bit less risk averse now. More, sorry,
L-
um, but that's a big risk for sure. Eventually, they're going to have to do that, I think. So I guess they might as well.
mm.
But I
I mean,
I think it would be smarter to do it on pad 1.
in theory, if you have the booster on the mount, you, unless something were to happen with the ship, which is a possibility, but in theory, you're not going to damage the booster. It's already got the shielding on the hot stage section, and that's supposed to withstand all 6 engines. So surely it can withstand 2 or 3.
Yeah. So now Mauricio's up in the air right now. I
Yeah,
did
and then
see
someone,
Lozada in the chat say that he got passed by 2 fighter jets.
and apparently it's Jared Isaacman, the NASA administrator. So that's very neat that he's down there.
Okay, we just had propellant loading. Well, we're getting closer to it. I think they just started up the LOX pumps and both. Actually, I think we're loading propellant right now.
Looks like SpaceX
Or
stream
hold on,
starting up.
let's see. Actually, the ship shouldn't start for another 6 minutes, right? So
Yeah, 5 minutes
that is
it's going
probably
to
the
lock
pre-chill.
the ship.
Yeah, that's just the pre-chill. Okay, so with SpaceX being live.
Yeah, and as soon as we get into the commentary portion of the Starship stream here in just a second, we're going to listen into their audio to hear all the updates that they have for us. Let's go ahead and pipe that in now.
Welcome to Starbase, Texas. It's currently 5:46 p.m. Central Time, and we are just over 43 minutes away from the first flight of SpaceX's next generation vehicle, Starship version 3. I'm Kate Tice, Senior Manager of Quality Systems Engineering.
And I'm Jake Berkowitz, a lead propulsion engineer. And today we're coming to you live from just outside the production floor at Star Factory, where the team's preparing for Starship's 12th test flight.
Yeah, it's been a few months since our last update, and in that time, the team has been working hard to completely redesign the entire rocket that you see there from the ground up.
Yeah, that's right, Kate. Starship version 3 has undergone significant upgrades, taking everything we've
That
learned
looks
from the previous
surreal
11
from this
flights
angle.
to make a vehicle capable of full and rapid reusability.
This includes everything from a new booster, new ship, new engines,
Towers
to
and
a new
waterfall
launch
mode.
pad, new avionics, new software, and so much more. All of that hardware is just down the road at Pad 2, a little over a mile and a half away from Jake and myself. And in our viewing area outside on the lawn, Starbase employees are excited and already starting to gather to watch today's flight.
Yeah, and right behind us are 3 generations of Raptor engines, and today will be the first flight of the newest generation, Raptor V3. And the 33 Raptors on Super Heavy Booster combined to generate 18 million pounds of thrust. You can see them all there.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. And it makes Starship by far the most powerful rocket of all time. And for comparison, we have over twice the thrust of the Saturn V rocket that carried astronauts to the moon. And then here, of course, you can see on
Wow.
ship, we have another 6 engines,
Look
and
how
3 of them
clean it is
feature
in
the
there.
larger vacuum-optimized nozzles called RVACs. And as a member of the Raptor team, I can tell you that we're all incredibly excited to put V3 to the test today and demonstrate the capabilities of our most advanced engine. And we'll get into all the exciting new details in just a few moments.
Yeah, that excitement is well warranted, Jake.
The ship
Raptor
engine
and
section
Starship
just looks
V3
empty.
are designed to be foundational for the future of the program. They're designed to enable us to send payloads and eventually people all the way to the moon and Mars, ultimately helping us make life multiplanetary and extending the light of consciousness to the stars.
Yeah, and in the meantime, we're planning to put Starship to work shortly by launching bigger and more powerful Starlink version 3 satellites. These new satellites aim to substantially increase capacity in orbit, strengthen the network, and deliver an improved experience for customers on Earth. Starship will also carry our upcoming V2 Starlink mobile satellites, which are expected to provide direct 5G connectivity from space straight to mobile phones worldwide.
Now, as a reminder for all of you watching at home, what we're doing today is a test. Like we mentioned earlier, we've redesigned the majority of this rocket and its systems. From the outside, for those of you that have tuned in before, it might look pretty familiar, but beneath the surface, it's all new. And the primary objective today is to put it all together in a real live flight environment. In order to learn, we got to launch.
Yeah, and really it's the data we're expecting to get back from today's flight that's going to bring us closer to making Starship operational and unlocking the next generation of our future in space. So no matter the outcome of today's test flight, excitement is guaranteed.
Most definitely. And speaking of excitement, Dan Hewitt is in a pretty exciting place. He's stationed just outside of the Launch Control Center, a couple floors above us. How's it going up there, Dan?
Kate, it couldn't be going better. We have a blue sky outside. I'm beyond psyched. Hello, everybody. I'm Dan Hewitt with SpaceX Communications. It's been far too long. Welcome back for another Starship launch. Things are looking good. We are counting down. We moved into our window a little bit, but we are looking good right now at this moment. Behind me, you see the flight control team. They're on console, looking at the rocket, the pad, the range, the weather, everything as we count down to liftoff. We're going to be getting into prop load in just a couple of minutes, and we are counting down to a liftoff at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. The weather is great. We haven't had a blue sky all day. There you can see almost nothing but that. We were fighting some upper level winds a little bit earlier. That's why we moved into our launch window. But the great news is we are looking go for launch. Also, we're monitoring the range, so air and sea space out in the Gulf and also in the Indian Ocean on the other side of the world, not tracking any issues there. Now, today's countdown functionally going to look pretty similar to most people. There's a couple of differences in timing for some of those major milestones, like when we start loading propellant, when the diverter turns on and the water's flowing, when the engines start up. But otherwise, other than that, all of the hardware brand new. New booster, new ship, new engines, new pad. Let's nerd out. Let's dive right into it. So there it is on the pad. Say hello to Starship version 3. As Kate noted, some of the outside might look familiar, but we've made extensive upgrades across every single system. Start with the big picture, because Starship still very, very big. Just over 407 feet tall, fully stacked, a little bit taller than version 2. With that extra stretch, we can carry even more propellant, but big rocket. The bottom half is our super heavy booster, and there are some pretty visible structural changes on the outside. We'll jump in. You've got version 3 on the left there, version 2 on the right. At the very top, we've changed from a one-time use hot stage adapter that used to pop off to one that's fully integrated for reusability. And Starship's Raptors are actually going to be igniting directly on top of the booster's fuel tank. The fuel tank pressure itself and then a non-structural layer of steel, it's what's protecting the top of that booster when we do hot stage separation. Moving down a little bit, we went from 4 grid fins to 3. We made them 50% bigger and higher strength. Just a reminder, that's what booster is using to kind of steer itself as it's flying back for a catch. We're also now going to use those grid fins for lift and catch itself. We zoom in a little bit and you can see new catch points now on those grid fin structures. Moving inside the rocket, we redesigned the fuel transfer tube. This is the really big tube inside the rocket that's moving all of that liquid methane down to the Super Heavy's 33 Raptor engines. It's going to help us flip faster, and we can now start up all of the engines simultaneously. This thing is big. It's about the size of a Falcon 9 first stage, which gives us the fun realization that we kind of put a rocket inside of our rocket. The very bottom of the booster looks very different. You've got those new Raptor 3 engines that enabled us to delete the bulky heat shields, the engine shrouds that we had on the previous generation. And then all of the propulsion, avionics hardware for those engines are super tightly integrated now and protected by much slimmer shielding. Move on up, second stage. This version of Starship is designed to carry massive orbital payloads. We're talking up to 100 metric tons to Earth orbit, the Moon, and Mars. The biggest changes are pretty much all under the hood. We gave the propulsion system a clean sheet redesign, increased the propellant tank volume, and improved our reaction control system, our steering while we're on orbit. When we X-ray inside, the PEZ dispenser is now supercharged, a little bit of turbo, and that's going to allow us to increase the deploy speed for each of those satellites. Today, we're actually flying the heaviest payload we've ever carried on Starship, but eventually we're going to launch with up to 60 of those Starlink V3 satellites. Just below that, just below the payload bay and also down in the aft part of the ship, we've added new docking ports. That's going to enable us to link up in orbit between 2 Starships, do propellant transfer. We also modified that main connection point where we load propellants into the vehicle for those future prop transfer missions. So a lot of upgrades tip to tail on the rocket, but powering everything, the Raptor 3. There they are, ripping in real time. These engines manufactured in Hawthorne, California, tested at our site up in McGregor. We redesigned their entire ignition system. We bumped up the thrust, so putting out more force, went from 230 to 250 tons force on those sea-level engines, 258 all the way up to 275 on the vacuum-optimized ones. When you look at all of the generations of Raptor lined up, all of those fiddly bits, the sensors, feed lines, controllers, everything that you were used to seeing around Raptor 1 and 2, a lot of those have either been deleted, best part is no port, or they're internally integrated and protected inside of the engine itself. That'll let us dramatically cut down on the weight of the engine, make it easier to manufacture because we are going to be mass producing these things. Now, we make these Raptors in Hawthorne. There's our Hawthorne manufacturing team getting ready to see their engines fly in space for the very first time. Huge shout out to you guys. You're all wizards. Appreciate you getting us some vehicles on the pad today. But incredible amount of effort. World's best engineering team works here at SpaceX. Get this rocket to that pad ready to launch. And we've been trying to follow more of it and document some of it. And if you haven't seen it, check out our new docu-series, Starship.
We really, built this rocket from scratch, but we've also built the pad from scratch. So it's all kinds of new systems. This will be the first time that we bring together the pad and vehicle pieces to make sure that they all work.
Static fire vehicle is in pre-pad clear, about to get to our static fire pad clear op state.
We run 60 seconds on ship because you get to see how the vehicle thermals all shake out and just general vehicle performance.
That if you can make it through that you are in a reasonable position to go fly.
Throttle up.
The journey of SpaceX is a journey to give humans access to the solar system and beyond, which is really the goal for Starship.
The impact that this rocket is going to have on the world, I don't think most people can really comprehend the change it's going to have.
This is such a wild ride. The highs are high, the lows are low as we really work to get to ultimately launching people, which is going to be amazing.
Plus 40.
It is not impossible just because it's far beyond what has been done before. We've proved that time and time again.
Plus 50. Acceleration.
Oh man, like Dan said, we've got the world's best engineering team, and I love this docu-series because it's allowing us to get a peek behind the curtains.
Yeah, the full thing is 25 minutes long, and I think I've watched it 4 or 5 times already. That's how good it is.
Same.
But yeah, so just as the team has been working hard on a brand new rocket, we've also redesigned the ground systems. The brand new Pad 2, that you can see on your screen here, is making its big debut today.
We took everything we learned from operating on Pad 1 to create this totally new launch pad. Pad 2 is optimized for full and rapid reusability. We've upgraded our propellant farm with much more storage and more pumps to enable super fast filling for launch and relaunch. On the tower, we changed to shorter chopsticks, which enable even faster motion to better track vehicles flying in for catch.
Yeah, we also changed the actuators driving those chopsticks from hydraulics to 100% electromechanical, increasing their speed, redundancy, and reliability. On the ground, the launch mount was completely redesigned, and if I had to describe it in one word, I'd say it's robust. With the extensive concrete and steel cladding, it almost feels like you're looking at a battleship, not a launch pad. But it's also smarter. We've separated the fuel and aux systems into different compartments and repositioned the booster quick disconnects to be out of the vehicle's plume during liftoff.
Yeah, and perhaps the most obvious change, we've now got a bi-directional flame diverter. We said goodbye to the pancake, and a new top deck flame deflector to eliminate metal wearing down, which will help us get to zero refurbishment between launches. In fact, that new flame trench and the new chopsticks are featured here on our new Pad 2 launch shirts. This launch pad is built for maximum safety and fast turnaround because making life multiplanetary will require launching a lot of Starships.
You got to get one of those shirts.
As
Zach.
the countdown continues, let's change gears for a moment and head over to Tyler Lionquist in Hawthorne to talk about Starlink. How's it going over there, Tyler?
I knew it.
Hey,
I knew
Kate,
they were going to do
thank
this.
you. We're back in Hawthorne, and we have a crowd forming outside of Mission Control ready to see some Starships fly today. And like Jake mentioned earlier, on today's flight, we're deploying 20 Starlink simulators, plus 2 modified Starlink satellites, which our team internally refers to as Dodger Dogs, because we stretched that V2 mini satellite propellant tank so that it sticks out from both ends of the satellite. You can see it right there. It is just missing some mustard and onions. So the Dodger Dog serves as a tech demo between the V2 and the V3 Starlink satellites, and will act as a platform for testing those V3 components. So the larger V3 satellites aim to greatly expand the network's capacity, while V3 hardware is designed to support faster Wi-Fi and improved broadband speeds to customers while providing a significant capacity upgrade from the V2 Mini. And in addition to delivering future V3 satellites to the Starlink network, we believe Starship will enable us to launch our AI satellites. As you may have seen during the TerraFab event in Austin a few months ago, Elon laid out the path to revolutionize cloud computing and AI infrastructure, leveraging the unlimited power of the sun, targeting 100 gigawatts to 1 terawatt of AI computing power annually. And from there, we're looking at connectivity beyond our planet too. Building on the technologies used to connect people on Earth, the Starlink team is exploring using Starlink to enable high bandwidth connectivity around the moon. With a constellation of satellites designed to connect to user terminals on the lunar surface, we could relay data back to our Starlink constellation in Earth orbit. So traditionally, deep space comms have relied on radio frequency transmission. This new design would use lasers to relay data back to Earth, which can massively increase the bandwidth available to future lunar missions. We currently have thousands of lasers operating in our Starlink constellation around Earth. Deploying that technology around the moon could connect it with hundreds of terabits of capacity. Together, this could provide the connectivity backbone between the Earth and the Moon and enable gigabit connectivity anywhere on the lunar surface, providing
Is this
data
a
for rovers,
2001 reference?
habitats, and astronauts, and hopefully some incredible views
Is
for
that the
us back on
monolith
Earth
from
too.
2001?
So all of that adds up to a lot of satellites. But the good news is that there's still plenty of space in space. But that said, the Starlink team takes space safety extremely seriously, and we work hard to encourage best practices across the entire industry so space stays open for as many people as possible.
There are tens of thousands of known space debris in low Earth orbit right now. All of that debris comes from man-made activities.
A lot of people talk about space being really congested, and they show this dust cloud around the Earth of all these points, and it looks like space is super, super crowded. I think if you take all the spacecraft that are in orbit, it's equivalent to about 3 aircraft flying over California at one time. So space is so much bigger, so many dimensions that are much beyond what we can comprehend. But even though it's big, there still is a potential that these satellites could collide and could hit each other if we don't proactively share information.
The orbit of objects follow Kepler's laws of motion, explained by Newton's laws of gravitation. So they orbit the Earth in very predictable trajectories as long as another force doesn't act on them. So you can reasonably fit millions of satellites into an orbital shell with that math. Obviously, to make that happen, you have to have really tight coordination between all those satellites, and everything has to work really well together. Starlink satellites make something like 1,000 collision avoidance maneuvers on a daily basis. We predict that a close approach will occur between another satellite or a piece of space debris. We use the thruster of the satellite to make a maneuver and keep away from the trajectory of that object and reduce the probability of collision to effectively zero. Because most of the actual collision risk comes from the surface area of the solar panels, we lower the solar panels to reduce the cross-section in the plane of the close approach to further reduce risk. On Starlink, I'm also excited to talk about a program we call Stargaze, cameras on the satellites looking up into space, measuring the star field. You can imagine 10,000 satellites staring up into space and detecting all the objects in low Earth orbit. You effectively almost have a real-time view of what's happening in the low Earth orbit environment. So we began detecting objects and fitting orbits to those objects, and currently we're tracking about 50% of the objects with perigees below 600 kilometers. This project has opened our eyes a bit to the activities that are occurring in space that are not being published. So we have many examples in Starlink satellite footage where an object came within tens of meters of a Starlink satellite, yet this was not predicted. This is extremely concerning because this type of incident could have resulted in a collision.
Last year, we flew 165 missions to space. As an industry leader, we would like to create a community where all industry providers share data back and forth. They tell us where their spacecraft are. They track their spacecraft as soon as they're deployed. They make them available to others so we know where everyone is. You know, there's some thought that if I keep my satellite position confidential and I don't share that with anyone, no one will know where my satellite is. Well, I think that's really fictitious. So we at SpaceX, we've taken the opposite approach. We've published all our data. We put all our ephemeris data out. We show where our satellites are. We show where we're maneuvering. And I think we're now showing the industry that there is no competitive advantage by not sharing your data. We're demonstrating to the outside world what good practices are. We as an industry have a tremendous obligation at this time, at this formative state, to actually communicate with each other, share best practices, and be good stewards amongst each other. It'll make us better as an industry. It'll give us an industry of the future that will continue to grow, continue to innovate, and help every company to grow and generate revenue.
To maintain safety in low Earth orbit, it's incredibly important that we work together as satellite operators and are very transparent in the activities that we are conducting. I think that an irresponsible satellite operator is one who either doesn't know where their spacecraft is or where it's going to go, or isn't broadcasting that to the world. Space is big, but operators are not always predictable. We want to enable other missions, the Moon and Mars and interplanetary exploration. So ensuring that activities like that can persist for the duration of humanity is incredibly important. You know, fundamentally, I think the message to operators is to be transparent about what you're doing in space, you know, transparent about where your satellite is and where it's going, and make sure you have the tools to ensure that that information is accurate all the time.
Starlink's future is bright and helping ensure space safety for all operators along the way. Now let's take a look into the flight profile for today's test. As we've mentioned a few times already, there are numerous redesigns making their debut today across the entire launch vehicle. In light of this, we want to keep our learning focused on all that new hardware and software, so we're running a flight profile similar to our last 2 Starship flights in order to minimize new variables.
Yeah, and we'll start with liftoff, where Super Heavy ignites 33 brand new Raptor 3 engines. We power through ascent ahead of hot stage separation. Booster shuts down all but 5 sustainer engines. Stage 2 lights its Raptor engines while still attached to Super Heavy. We get to see stage separation debuting the integrated hot stage. Directional booster flip, engine relight, and boost back using 33 engines. And after coasting for a few minutes, the booster today will target a landing burn and soft splashdown a few miles off the coast from Starbase.
Yeah, Ship does a bunch of fun things like deploying 20 Starlink simulator satellites, 2 of them Dodger Dogs as we affectionately call them, single engine Raptor relight, and then reentry. Everybody's favorite part, lots of fun Technicolor colors that will be brought to us by Starlink. And if all of that goes as planned, we will finish the test with a flip, a landing burn, and a soft splashdown in the Indian Ocean. And actually, in just a few moments, thanks to Starlink, we'll be going live to the Indian Ocean and chatting with the ship recovery team stationed out there.
I'm so excited for that. That's going to be awesome.
So cool.
But sit tight.
That's really cool.
First, we're going to go to Dan for a quick status check.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Everything's still looking good. We are not tracking any issues technically on the vehicle or on the pad. Range status continues to be good, both the range out here in the Gulf and out in the Indian Ocean. As you can see, we have started our propellant load. That happened at about 36 minutes before T0. We're loading about 20% faster on pad 2 than we did on pad 1. Our flight director, Ty Huntington's back in the chair again. He was there for Starship's first flight test and 11 back for V3. He did that final go, no go at about T-minus 1 hour. We do start loading on ship first. That happened at about T-minus 37. Booster follows about 1 minute later, starting with its liquid oxygen and then its liquid methane. And then ship fuel is the last one to kick off at about T-minus 35. We're going to continue loading all of this propellant on board until about 3 minutes right before launch. 3 minutes 20 on ship, 2 minutes 50 on the booster. So we go pretty much right down to the wire. But as of this moment, still looking good. T0 set for 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Continuing to load prop, continuing to count down. All right. If you've been following along with these launches, you know we've been sending these suborbital and they splash down in the Indian Ocean. How the heck do we see some of that? Well, we have our recovery team, our Starship recovery team, and one of their primary jobs is to get those reentry views and a whole lot more. We're going to take them now. We're joining them out in the Indian Ocean. We've got Suren Sinai standing by, taking a moment from the recovery ops. He might be frozen. Let me know if you can hear me, Suren. How's everything looking out there in the ocean?
Dan, I can hear you loud and clear. We're sitting in about 8-foot waves, but it's looking like a clear day, ready for a ship to come on through.
All right, man. How many of these have you done? And walk us through. What's the recovery team's primary job out there?
I've done 6 and now 7 of these missions, and
are you kidding me?
With every mission, we've seen it evolve, and but our primary goal has always been to clear the range. So just like we do over in the Gulf, the same kind of happens here. We send 1 to 2 boats out and we make sure there's nothing in the area so that the rocket is clear to land. And then once we can guarantee that and have the rocket leave the pad, then we can proceed to imagery collection. So we have
All right, we'll see if we can get him back, but they're out there in the Indian Ocean. I think everyone's familiar. They've got the buoy cams. They've got the drones that are going to be going up, so we're going to be cutting back to them live once they get. They've been doing some practice stuff. We've been able to shoot some of this. So there you can see Suren getting those buoy boats. So they're basically out there. They're deploying these boats in the splashdown zone. If you get a live view from one of these boats, that tells you that we're pretty much nailing our target on that. And then Suren and a couple of our other recovery folks out there are going to be flying drones to hopefully get that imagery of Starship coming back. It's super critical for us to see just how that heat shield performed after reentry, and just having them out there remote, just in the middle of nowhere, plays just a really critical role in just rapid iteration on Starship and its heat shield. So looking forward to hopefully seeing some views from them a little bit later. But for now, let's head back down to Kate and Jake for the latest progress at Cape Canaveral in Florida.
Thanks, Dan. Now, if we want to get to the moon and then Mars as fast as possible, there's really only one answer: launch a lot more rockets.
Yeah, and to do that, we're going to need a few more launch pads and support buildings, which is exactly what we're working on over in Florida. So originally built for Apollo and then the Space Shuttle, Launch Complex 39A has flown 126 Falcon missions since SpaceX reactivated the pad in 2017.
Yeah, it's crazy that it's that many. Fun fact, I actually hosted the live webcast for our very first launch at Pad 39A, and it was so exciting to see that come back to life. It's also exciting to see how today, almost 10 years later, the ongoing construction and development that will bring a second launch tower to Launch Complex 39A. You can see it ongoing there on your screen. It's designed to expand our capabilities to support Starship launches in the future, while also continuing to support Falcon Heavy missions from the original Apollo Shuttle Falcon launch tower.
Yeah, and we're also building a Starship launch pad at Slick 37. And to support the uptick in future launches, there's Gigabay, a giant assembly and maintenance facility designed to prep Starships ahead of Florida launches. And when complete, this huge structure aims to hold 24 work cells in over 800,000 square feet of workspace. That's 24 rockets under one roof. That's absolutely crazy.
Could be so many.
Yeah. So SpaceX's future in Florida is quickly taking shape with our very first launches on the horizon.
Yes, a horizon that aims for regular trips to the moon. Now, staying with the lunar conversation, we're going to head back up to Dan, who has Starship Vice President of Engineering, Bill Riley, our favorite webcast visitor, to talk about the moon.
That's right, Kate. Yeah, crashing the webcast again. Bill Riley, VP of Starship Engineering. Thanks for coming, Bill. We wanted like a couple of minutes to geek out about the moon. Like Artemis 2 just flew humans around the moon for the first time in like 50 years, more than 50 years. I personally was wildly caught up in it. I don't know how you felt about the whole thing.
Yeah, I found it really inspirational. I think part of being a spacefaring civilization is being out there exploring, and I thought Artemis 2 got us back to the moon and back exploring and being out farther than we had been before.
It's always wild when you see space stuff kind of break through into the mainstream, and like it felt like that really did it. And I mean, that's going to continue happening. We're looking at a higher cadence of missions in Artemis, and Starship's obviously going to play a pretty big role in the entire Artemis program. But like, what's kind of next on the horizon?
I think what's exciting about Artemis 3 is you'll see the landers introduced now. So, maybe we're talking to NASA about doing an Earth orbit rendezvous where the Starship-based lander could be in proximity to Orion or even more. I think that's really the next step. Prove out those landers close to home in Earth orbit, and then looking ahead, going to the moon.
And we're debuting V3 now, and just some of the stuff that's now on this version of Starship is going to directly enable some of that, or it's planned to, correct?
That's right. So V3 is exciting because it really introduces it's designed to introduce all these fundamental foundational features that allow us to go out past the Earth. So for example, there's many features, but some that are visible are the docking adapters below the PES door that you'll notice on the as-built ship. And then as we look out past V3, there's other configurations of Starship. There is a tanker that takes the propellant to dock with the lander that will land on the moon. And think of the on-orbit propellant transfer as sort of like the gas station in the sky. And then that gas station will be what we call the depot.
And then the plan now, and the plan's been, but it's really emphasized now, we're not just going for flags and footprints, we're talking permanent infrastructure on the moon, right?
That's right. We have to build up to that capacity. So the first landers will be, a new set of boot prints to kind of start a new generation of explorers. Then we'll build into cargo landers like you see here, maybe bringing down a rover to the surface. Some infrastructure might even be staying inside the landers. And then as we look to an even brighter future, having a permanent presence in a moon base.
Yeah, I'm ready for the moon base. I need to go to the moon. That's definitely in my. It sounds like a hell of a week-long vacation or one heck of a trip. But and I mean, this is the next step on making life multiplanetary, right?
Absolutely. It's literally the next planetary body we need to get to. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Bill. I'm going to let you jump back in there as we get ready to launch this rocket. Thanks for nerding out on the moon with me for a couple of minutes. But we're not done. We got a little bit of more cool news. Stick around. Last year, the From 2 crew made history. They were the first astronauts ever to explore Earth's polar regions from space in Dragon. I got to catch up with that mission commander from that, Chun Wang. He was visiting one of the most remote places on the planet, and he had some exciting news. Awesome to talk to you. Start me off. Where the heck are you right now?
Thank you for joining me to Bouvet Island, and this isolated island in the South Atlantic. It's arguably the most remote island in the world.
It looks super isolated. You're only there with a couple of people. Kind of feels like a space mission to me. So let's just jump right in. You are going to be on the first interplanetary mission on a Starship.
So it's going to be a flyby mission of Mars. So a lot of people are talking about how Mars will be like. We're going to fly to Mars, we're going to land on Mars, we're going to build city on Mars. But let's get it started with a flyby.
Doing a flyby of Mars, that's a heck of a trip, but you're kind of built for this kind of mission, right? Because if you're not landing on the surface, you're spending a long time going out there, you're going to fly by it. It's going to be like just an insane couple of hours, and then it's a big trip back home. How are you kind of built to handle this kind of a journey?
This actually my style of spiral. I can stare at the map view on airplane all the way from takeoff to landing. So I think I'm enjoying the trip.
So it's not just the Mars flight, you're also going to be taking a trip around the moon, right? So kind of do that step before heading all the way out to Mars.
Yes, because even though it's just a flyby, it will try a lot of things that never been attempted before.
How do you kind of see these types of missions in kind of the grand scheme of everything?
It will light the fire. It will ignite imagination, and it will build the momentum. After we come back from Mars, you'll have an opportunity to take some real photos of Mars. Mars will no longer become a distant space. It will become reality.
Well, Chun, thanks for calling in from the other side of the planet. Super cool location, super cool to talk to you, and I mean exciting. You're going to get on Starship. You're going to go around the moon and then do the first flyby of Mars. It's insanely exciting stuff.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Oh man, fireworks indeed. Just incredible to be one of the first humans to become an interplanetary traveler while also joining Starship's first mission to fly past the moon.
Yeah, Chun is certainly a one-of-a-kind explorer. And it's even more exciting to know everyone can join a future Starship mission.
Yeah. If what you just heard excites you, challenges you, inspires you, we'd like to hear from you. Come join our team.
How's everything
Be one
looking?
of the people walking past us out to the lawn to watch the world's best rocket launch.
Under 10 minutes to go.
Help shape the literal future of humanity. Now, we need the best and the brightest, and we need you right now.
Yeah, and we have tons of openings all across the company where we're looking for talented engineers and technicians at all of our sites, including McGregor, Texas, where we test every single one of these Raptor V3 engines behind us. Bastrop, Texas, where we build and assemble Starlink user terminals.
We also need help up in Redmond, Washington. That's Starlink's global headquarters, where, among other things, we manufacture Starlink satellites. If you like the fall weather, that might be the place for you. And as you've seen throughout today's show, there is a tremendous amount of activity happening right here at Starbase, Texas. Here and everywhere, it's all part of the incredible opportunity that we have to build the future of humanity.
Yeah, so if you're interested, visit spacex.com/careers to see these and all of our other openings.
Now, I can tell you that the crowd is certainly starting to grow. Behind us, you see the launch pad there for yourself. Once again, this is the first flight test of Starship version 3. This will be the first time that we are debuting this booster, this ship, the launch pad that you see there. And you can see people walking over my shoulder here as our colleagues are moving in masses to go watch this liftoff in just over 7.5 minutes from now. It's pretty exciting stuff.
It's pretty exciting, and as a reminder, we're only a mile and a half away here, so we are very close, about as close as you can be, and we're definitely expecting to feel it.
Sorry to interrupt you, Jake. Hi. Do we have a mic? Hello, for those of you that might not know.
How are you guys?
Welcome, Nikki. It's so nice to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh my gosh. What do you think the Barbs are going to say when they see you here at Starbase?
They better say all good things.
Are we for real?
But they're going to be excited, and they're probably going to want to come themselves next time.
I mean, anybody can come and watch the launches. It's super accessible to
Really?
the public, so we welcome that.
Okay, Barbs, come on down, because this is a lot of fun. I'm excited. Is it about to happen in any minute?
What is happening right now?
See that
Lucid.
number right there in the top left corner, 6.5 minutes.
6 minutes left?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, but this is historic. This is a major moment, y'all.
Yeah.
It is.
Is this your first rocket launch that you've seen live?
Yes.
Wow.
Wow.
How do you feel?
Very, very excited. I'm happy it's a good day. I thought it might be like...
I just noticed your shirt. You've got the right swag.
I love this shirt.
It's a great shirt. I have one as well.
And it's a great name, Starship.
I mean, how did you predict the future? Starships are meant to fly.
I do not know.
Oh, that's
but
why.
Major shout out to
Okay, I
Elon.
understand it.
Elon, thank you for everything that you're doing for humanity.
He's the man, for sure.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much.
All right, I'll see you guys
We want to
later.
watch the launch with you,
Okay, yes.
so we'll take this back because this is too loud to take outside. Wow, what a moment. And with that, great timing. We're now at 5.5 minutes. This brings us into terminal count. Dan, man, the anticipation is certainly growing here in the lobby and out on the lawn. What is it like up there?
Yeah, we are ready to go. We are getting into the final phase of our propellant loading. We are almost entirely full on ship on our main, still doing the header tanks, and we're looking well in excess of 90% on the booster, so we are looking good. Still not tracking any range, any weather issues today, not tracking any technical problems on the vehicle, on the launch pad, looking good for liftoff in just under 5 minutes. Once we're done with propellant loading on the booster, you have over 11.5 million pounds of that liquid methane, liquid oxygen on those two stages. After that, we have to essentially get the pad ready for launch. We'll do something called pushbacks, where all of those lines running underground from the propellant farm up to the vehicle, they're going to clear back. They're going to push all that propellant back into kind of the bunker area around the prop farm and just basically get the pad ready. We'll see the vehicles do their final thrust vector control checkouts. So when we snoop in, we should see the engines do kind of final wiggle checks. That's how we steer the rocket. We're going to do those at about T-minus 100 seconds, so a minute 40, and then once we pass the T-minus 40-second gate. If we do need to hold, that is still built in at T-minus 40 seconds. It's built into the countdown. We can pause if we need anything like those pushbacks to complete. If we need anything on the rocket to get ready,
very much
we can
like
hold
Flight
there.
1.
We'll only stop if we have an issue. Not currently tracking one. We have one item that might hold us up a little bit just based off of what we've seen in recent static fires, but that's typically only been hanging out for a couple of extra seconds. And then once we pass T-minus 40 seconds, a lot of things will happen in rapid succession.
Yeah, that moment is called the QD, or Quick Disconnect Vent Gate. That's when we clear all the gas commodity lines that connect the pad to the vehicles. Both the ship and the booster configure their comm systems for flight and are rapidly running leak checks on gas and fluid tanks. The booster.
And real quick, I'm going to bring them right back up in just a second, but you may notice there's about a 10-second delay between our countdown here at Avid and SpaceX's. That is normal. It is SpaceX's stream is about 10 seconds behind ours, so you're going to see liftoff on our feed before you see it on theirs. That's totally normal. Just letting you guys know of that.
Again, all the way down to T0. We estimate we have around 5 minutes of hold time there. The flame diverter on pad 2 activates at around T-minus 17 seconds, and it enters what is essentially the point of no return at T-minus 10 seconds. And there's a chance we could recycle, but the closer we get to T-minus 10, the lower that chance becomes.
All right, we are coming up on 2 minutes. We have completed propellant loading on the booster, just shut down the fuel pump for loading onto the ship, so we're closing all of that out now. 2 minutes to go. One kind of exciting aspect to V3, we're not going to start the engines up in kind of different sets. All 33 of those Raptors going to turn on all at once, and you're going to see the booster move off the pad a whole lot quicker.
Once again, if you've just joined us, this is the first flight for version 3 of Starship. The ship, which is the upper part, the black part there at the top, the booster, which is the part below that, have been completely redesigned.
Any final comments, Zach?
Oh, I don't know. I'm excited. This is so crazy to me right now. Go fly 12.
Let's go. Full send.
T-minus 1 minute. So let's go to the pad and let the rocket do the talking as V3 fully comes alive.
T-minus 1 minute.
We'll wait to hear the go for launch. That'll be at 40 seconds, or they could hold. Looks like we are holding at 40 seconds.
So we did hit the hold at T-minus 40. Again, this is something that is built into the timeline. Not surprising as we are doing this first flight off of pad 2. Sounds like we might already be clear. We held for a second just to make sure that the quick disconnect vents were basically ready for their final throwbacks.
Okay, sounds like they're going to be clear.
Hang tight for a couple of seconds. I think we're about to reset, and the reset is in.
Here we go.
Counting down, first flight of Starship V3.
Oh, did they get...
Psych, back to rapid recycle.
Okay.
All right, so...
we are holding again.
Hold here for a second. Looks like we're still managing some pressures in the ship. Quick disconnect. All right, still going to hang out for a couple of seconds here at T-minus 40. Again, not surprising. This is new vehicle, new pad, doing all these things for the very first time. Right now we are holding.
Sounds like they've just...
looking at some pressures in the quick disconnect and hold reset, and we're rolling.
Here we go.
Flight directors, go for launch.
Go for launch.
Back to rapid recycle, so we're going to hold at T-minus 40 again.
Again? Ooh.
Tight for a second. We'll see what tripped this last one.
3 times now we've held.
As a reminder, we can hang out for quite a few minutes at T-minus 40 if we need the extra time. You're not actively loading propellant onto the vehicle anymore, so the main thing you're kind of keeping an eye on is all of the temperatures inside those propellant tanks.
I like all the extra info from Dan, for sure.
Yeah. It sounds like they've just got a couple more things to check out before they're good to go. I don't think it's a showstopper or like an actual hardware issue. Fingers crossed.
All right, we're continuing to hang out here at T-minus 40. Team's taking a look right now at our diverter, so that water diverter underneath the system did trip a hold, but that basically just gives the team the chance to look at it, see if it's something that we need to troubleshoot in data or if it's something that we can clear this hold. So continuing to hang tight,
Wow.
T-minus 40 seconds. Starship and Super Heavy fully loaded on the pad. Clock is
So
rolling.
it's on the diverter. Oh, here we go.
Two eyes 30, flight directors, go for launch.
Boom, another one.
And another one. Wow.
And we kick back to rapid recycle again.
Schrodinger's launch. Is it holding or not holding?
Just a reminder, said it before, new pad, new rocket, learning new things about this hardware performing in the flight environment. Taking a look at some of the sensors on the arm that manages the quick disconnect to the ship.
Now it's the QD arm.
The promise we're not just trying to prolong the anticipation. Team's taking a look. We've got a couple more minutes where we can hang out here. Again, it's not an unlimited time to pause at T-minus 40. We're keeping an eye on the propellant temperatures inside the vehicles. So we've got probably about 3 minutes or so left of hold time.
That's not very long.
Team's taking a look at the hold that tripped on that arm for the quick disconnect on the tower.
I wonder if any of these things happened during the wet dress rehearsal.
Maybe. He did mention there was an issue that they had encountered during the static fires that could trip a hold. I don't know if this is it or not. Probably not, because it's the QD arm.
No, that's quite a few issues, actually.
Continuing to hold, got a couple minutes to try and clear this issue.
I was wondering if they were going to actually mention, the crazy new deluge system they have, but they really haven't. Something told me they weren't going to, and they didn't.
They've got to be down to like a minute left of hold time now.
Still holding T-minus 40, still troubleshooting this issue. Probably got about a minute or a minute and a half left of hold time.
I don't know if we're going to make it, gang. Oh, wow. That's a view and a half.
Flight control team confirms still working through the issue. Still have a short amount of hold time still remaining.
Oh, Dan, you can do it.
I did see there's a vent on, it looks like it's on like the elbow of the QD arm. I don't know if that's anything.
Yeah, there's a few of them up there.
Okay.
I think there's one closer to the front as well too.
Mental math tells me I
Still
think they're
holding
out of hold
T-minus
time.
40. All right, still continuing to hold here at T-minus 40. While we do that, the team's looking at temperatures of the propellant inside those tanks. We kind of check that against simulations that we've run in the past. There's some margin in those. We're still holding, no decision yet.
This is sounding like a scrub. I hope not, but
Sounding like we have the fix in place.
oh, whoa.
Hold reset, clocks is rolling.
We're moving. Okay. Okay. Great.
We're back into rapid recycle.
What a emotional roller coaster.
All right, we're back at our T-minus 40 hold. Standing by to see what tripped us this time.
Watch it be a separate issue.
All right, it is sounding like we are not going to be able to clear this issue in time today, so we are going to be standing down from any launch. So if you're just now joining us, we got the vehicle totally loaded. We hit a couple of different holds as we worked through that count. Again, new rocket, new pad. We're learning about a lot about these systems as we execute them for the first time, and we're not able to basically troubleshoot all of these issues in those final seconds to get to launch. But that essentially makes this a wet dress rehearsal. We were able to fully load the vehicles, and we're going to take the time now, figure out what tripped us up before launch, and then actually get into a flight tomorrow. We do have the ability to essentially rapidly recycle. We are expecting to be able to make another flight attempt tomorrow, but obviously stay tuned to our social media at SpaceX on X and our website, spacex.com, for updates. So no flight today. We will give it another try tomorrow.
Well, an hour of delay and then 5 T-minus 40-second holds, all for a scrub.
Hey, I mean, these things happen. I think like I said before, I do wonder if they had these issues during the wet dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
But again, you know, with this being a new pad, this isn't all that surprising to have those issues. So
right. I can't say I'm particularly surprised.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we do have another attempt tomorrow. Unfortunately, there is a holiday weekend coming up. So if for some reason they're unable to pull that off tomorrow, then we're probably looking at Tuesday at the earliest. So with that said.
But yeah, 24-hour recycle. So that's good news. Hopefully they can figure out the issue that tripped them up. Of course, safety is number one. Scrubs are better than booms, and this is a brand new vehicle with a brand new pad. So definitely want to exercise the utmost caution here. But regardless, thank you all for joining us for this first launch attempt of Starship Flight 12. Even if the outcome wasn't what we had hoped, we still appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out and showing all your love and support. As always, be sure to, if you've liked the stream, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, join the channel as a member. We appreciate any level of support here at Avid. And hopefully we will be back here in a little less than 24 hours for attempt 2 of Starship Flight 12. So we will catch you another time, Ship 39 and Booster 19. We will catch you another time, Avid Space fans. Any last comments from you, Zach?
Yeah, thank you everybody for joining us today. Hopefully, I think I'm having some connection issues, so hopefully you guys can still hear me fairly easily. But yeah, thank you everybody for being here today. We will, of course, be back next time. Excited to do this again round 2. I feel like the last few times we've had the same luck, so kind of growing used to it at this point. But thanks everybody for your patience. I mean, we're all waiting together, right? So yeah, we'll see you all next time.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining, and we will see you around. This is Caden from Avid Space signing off.